W239BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
First four tonight in Dayton, opening game, Howard and Wagner. In the second game, Virginia, Colorado State. First game tonight, 6:40 Eastern. Second game scheduled for 9:10 Eastern.
On True TV. This is always the time of the year when I have to find out where True TV is.
I think I'm actually going to take Gonzaga, Houston, UConn, and I'm going to go with North Carolina.
North Carolina is the best team.
We're talking about the women's bracket as much as the men's bracket.
Edwards gets it back!
So the Bills, looks like they are now focusing their attention on the safety position.
Mike Danger.
I walk around all day in my house, and I'll just talk to myself in the two Rochester accents, and my family thinks I'm losing my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks, Gene. Have a great day.
Gene Battaglia.
It's okay to be a fan of your team, Danger. It's okay
I am.
to get excited.
I am.
Go Sabres!
Buffalo winning it by a score of 6-2.
And tonight, it's in Vancouver.
Let's go, Amerks. The Baltimore accent bracket.
Megan Rapinoe.
This is Joe Capo, that good.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Hey, good afternoon to you. Welcome on into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along. 95.7 FM, AM 950. In the free-to-download Odyssey app on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. Even our video stream at The Fan Rochester, our YouTube page and our YouTube channel, and also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. We'd be serving you today, except, well, we got to boil the water first before we can serve you anything.
Yeah, for everybody that is listening outside of Rochester, maybe you're in Buffalo or points beyond.
Or just outside of the city. It feels like a good chunk of the city right now is...
That's true, too. But, yeah, it's kind of the lead story in the news here that, they fished something out of the city reservoir.
I'll say it. There's a dead body. They found a dead body in the Highland Park Reservoir, and now there's a boil water notice in effect for, all these different neighborhoods, including this fine neighborhood that we work in here, the High Falls District. I wish I would have known that before I went to the water cooler that's tapped into the water system here in the building. I drank one of my regular water bottles earlier today, not knowing that we were under this. I'm sure everything is going to be fine. I'm sure you're going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. Again, a dead body found in the Highland Park Reservoir. Welcome to Rochester. When is the eclipse happening? We've got to clean this up before the tourists come to town.
Can we, I was so impressed with our town, how we cleaned ourselves up very nicely for the PGA. We got to do that again.
What are some of the ill effects of drinking contaminated water? What can you get? What are some
I have no idea. Did you look this up?
No. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even going to try to pretend to play one on the radio. But if I come down with something here in the next couple of days.
Well, let's just kind of go with the basics here. Diarrhea, vomiting, stomach pain.
I don't have any of that just yet. But we'll monitor it through the course. I think you're probably in the clear, right? You got out of here a little bit this morning.
I was drinking coffee, which I brought from home. And today, I was a good employee. I did a sales day, which means you go out and you meet people and you drop off business cards and you have impromptu meetings. So I haven't been in the office all day. And I came back and all of a sudden, did you hear? Yeah, yes, I heard. But I didn't realize that meant that we had to boil water. So thankfully we have some bottled aqua here.
That's right.
Well, what do we do then? We can't wash our hands then, can we?
No, I think there's we'll dip ourselves in Purell. Can we use the bathroom?
I don't know.
That's the question. Because the water, did they shut the water off? And why do we care if it's toilet water, if it's contaminated or not? Does that matter?
I don't think so.
The tap water that you're washing your hands with, maybe. But when you're using soap, doesn't that eliminate any bacteria? I have so many questions. And it just such a panic right now, Gino. If I keel over at some point this afternoon, or if I have to make an emergency exit stage left, do you know why?
Well, you were telling me, what were the California water rules? We're not used to this here in Rochester.
Well, whenever there's a water shortage in California in the summertime, the thing I always used to hear my buddies tell me in California was they would say, when it was yellow, let it mellow. And if it's brown, flush it down. Otherwise, The shortage. There's no water shortage here. I mean, you look around my neighborhood, you got guys watering their lawn 18 hours a day. None of that applies to us in this part of the country. But in California, if it's yellow, let it mellow. And if it's brown, flush it down. Well, boil water effect for probably the next 24 to 48 hours, according to the city of Rochester, for a lot of neighborhoods here. What is it? West of the Genesee, I want to say.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
This is where
neighborhoods. I shouldn't say counties. Neighborhoods.
So the thing I didn't know today, the reach of the city reservoir. There we go.
The Highland Park Reservoir, where they fished out a dead body. We got a fun show lined up for you. You know what I can't wait for, Gino? I mean, it's Tuesday. We've got play-in action tonight. What I can't wait for is Thursday at this time. We're just a couple of days away. I've been scrutinizing and second-guessing every one of my first round, second round, third round picks for the bracket. I'm ready for Thursday. I'm ready for the tournament to get underway.
And we will be at the tap room at Bill Gray's. That is on Chilai Avenue. It's 15 minutes from anywhere, basically, in our town. So come on over. We got some RSVPs, people coming over already, Danger. It's going to be very exciting. And what makes it just kind of a cool day is we're watching these finales together. And chances are you're having a bracket, too. So why not share a cold one with us, and we'll have
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
Do we get the deep fried pickles? Can we get some deep fried pickles at our table?
I think you could do that. I'm partial to their Philly cheesesteak, actually.
Ooh.
So they've got the complete menu at their tap room, Bill Gray's, and there's a lot of seating in there too, which I love.
Can we get a great plate? I want to get a great plate for $9.99. Can we get a great plate at $9?
That is the price on Tuesdays.
Oh, that's the Tuesday price, cuz you got to go there on Tuesdays.
Okay, I'll go there on Tuesdays. I love Bill Gray's.
I'm really concerned about this trend of you talking to yourself here.
I'm not. I'm talking. There's two characters talking to each other.
Okay.
I'm just the vessel for the two characters in Rochester. Two Rochester guys just having a conversation.
Okay, gotcha.
I like Bill Gray's.
Oh yeah, cuz I like Bill Gray's too.
Have you had the fried pickles?
No, I like the great plate for $9.99 on Tuesdays.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll see you there with Danger and Battaglia.
Okay, cuz. It's just one of two guys. Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, normally would stop by 425, got pushed. We will talk to Seth before we close up shop here later on this afternoon, right around 5:45.
Yeah, he's getting pulled into a meeting. So if you're an Amherst fan that's used to him at around 4:30 on our show on Tuesdays, something came up. The boss wants to talk, so I can only imagine that's a little different. But again, the Sabres have a little bit of a different schedule too. They're on the different coast here, so everything is a little off this week. So we'll talk to Seth Appert right at the end of the show, 5:45.
We'll be joined in the 4 o'clock hour by the host of BetQL's Send It In and Odyssey Sports betting insider PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
PJ will give us winners. Again, he's been on James Madison before they were a 14 seed, pointing that out. So we'll get his thoughts now that the brackets are out. And if you want to go above and beyond the brackets, Danger, maybe there's a player prop that is interesting, as some of them are starting to pop up now. Maybe there's a money line bet. PJ is full of winners, full of advice. We will talk to him, but let's not bury the lead, which I'm burying the lead here. We're bringing him on here for the final part of our bracket.
The Baltimore accent bracket. It's our at-large region. We've got a wide variety of characters to share with PJ and have him spit them back with his Baltimore accent. Who will be joining in our Final Four? Who will be joining? Dante DiVincenzo, Joe Flacco, and Placido Polanco? Well, you have to keep listening here. We'll unveil that at-large region.
You hit me with a hockey name that I was like, how did
perfect.
I not?
It's a perfect.
Yes.
I've got a perfect hockey name. I've got an unbelievable tennis name. International superstar athlete name. One of the greatest Olympian names of all time.
This is like the East bracket with UConn. Like, wait a second, they put everybody in the East here with UConn. If Auburn is a 4 seed, this bracket danger is too much.
I even found a NASCAR name that we can throw at our boy PJ. This region is going to be a tough one. A golfer is in there. It's going to be a tough one for PJ. We're going to unveil the at-large region for our Baltimore accent bracket with PJ Glasser and get some winners here just after 4 o'clock. And joining us here in about 15 minutes or so, Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast as well. We'll get the latest rumblings out of Buffalo with the Buffalo Bills. Hey, look, the NFL's free agent period is quieting down a little bit. There are still some names that are out there. There are still some signings that are happening. But the Bills are still active. I mean, we had the extension of Taron Johnson just yesterday. We had the team taking a visit with a safety from Indianapolis, a free agent safety. So we'll learn more about all of these little headlines from Matt Perino here in a couple few.
Yeah, and there's another safety in today. Just 1 year in Kansas City. That was last year, Mike Edwards. So Mike Edwards, formerly of Tampa Bay. Before that, again, he's got 2 rings on his resume, one with the Buccaneers, one with the Chiefs. So this is another safety. In his career, he's got 8 interceptions. So bringing in more, I don't want to say cheap labor, but
veteran.
Yeah, and some guys that are under the radar here. Like, you're not going to, and you don't have the money really to pay top dollar at the position, but I would say that you need a heck of a lot more at that position right now.
The feeling that this is a situation where anybody that you're bringing in, I mean, what they do on the field is secondary to how they get along with Sean McDermott, whether or not Sean McDermott believes that they can grasp what he wants them to do. It's really, that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, the athleticism is one thing, your ability on the field is one thing, but can I communicate with you? Can we have the kind of relationship that we had with Poyer and Hyde?
You just hit the nail on the head, because did Mac Hollins come in for a visit? Did Curtis Samuel come in for a visit? No. Maybe they did it over Zoom. I would assume there would have been a conversation by phone. But this is a little bit more, and you're coming in for a visit almost like you're being drafted. So, again, it's kind of the second wave. You've got more time to do this sort of thing, and I'm not ready to plant my flag yet. But if free agency, if this was at danger, then forget about a wide receiver in the first round. Forget about a defensive lineman in the first round. You've got to go get a safety. You've got to go get some help in the secondary, and that's why I'm bringing up the name Cooper DeJean, because I'm not ready to plant my flag yet as far as this is what the Buffalo Bills should do. What I'm saying is, if it were today, I would think that would be my chalk pick, what they would do just based on need. You need more competition at the safety position.
We will get to Matt Perino here in about 10 minutes, get his thoughts on some of these visits happening with the Buffalo Bills. And, of course, we'll talk about that, the importance of that Taron Johnson extension. Speaking of extensions, I don't know if you saw this yet. This is just crossing my feed here. The Browns, we knew that Jerry Jeudy was going to end up with Cleveland as that deal was consummated at the start of the league year. The extension for Jeudy, 3 years, up to $58 million with $41 million fully guaranteed at signing. The Browns just throwing money around. That's ridiculous money for Jerry Jeudy.
Can you give those dollars again? I'm sorry, I blacked out.
3 years, up to $58 million, including $41 million fully guaranteed at signing. For Jerry freaking Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy.
But take of the year nominee from Stephen Smith.
Yeah, he's just a Jag. He's just a guy. Remember?
I called out to him because on my podcast, Cut to It, I just talked about guys that maybe have not showed up in a way or in a manner. And so the word that I've used to describe him in the past was a Jag, just a guy. Just a guy. And so when I saw him, he's playing well. I wanted to say to him face to face, like, hey, I know I said some things in the past I probably shouldn't have, and I'm sorry. That's what I wanted to say to him. His response, Mike Robb and Bucky, was ninja. Ninja. Yes, I'm using the word ninja. I'm just using the word ninja. I don't mess with you. And it was a curse word. And so I was like, all right. And then he repeated it. So I'll say it again. I'm sorry that I said you were a jag, just a guy who's an average wide receiver that you use a first round pick on that isn't doing anything. I hope today that you actually show up in a way that you haven't showed up in the last couple of years since they drafted you. So if you ever got a problem with Agent 89, I'm sorry for saying that you're an average wide receiver that they eventually will move on. And when teams call me and asking, should they trade for you? I will say no, don't trade for Jerry Jeudy because he's mentally unable to handle constructive criticism from people who watch specifically, can he be a wide receiver? He could be a wide receiver. He's a tier 3. Go back into the studio. I'm done now. Thank you.
Mic drop, literal mic drop. He's a tier 3. I won't tell teams to trade for him, and teams will want him. I will tell teams not to trade for him. He didn't talk to the Browns, apparently.
The part that you can hear on that, it's the look of Garofalo on the face. That his face, it just says it all. Like, I didn't know this take was coming right here. We're doing this on live television. Yeah. And so far, he's right. And this fits the Browns, right? They have negotiate? Like, no, Deshaun Watson, let's give him whatever he wants.
Yeah,
what could go wrong?
I don't know who's that enamored with Jerry Jeudy, the player, that they feel to pay him what they're paying him. Who in that organization is that head over heels?
Who are you competing against? Like, what other team would have paid him that much?
Right.
You're just doing this, what, make him happy? What?
Ugh. No, dysfunctional teams continue to do dysfunctional things.
There is I think, a big story here in college sports, and I'm not talking about the tournament. So in December, Florida State filed a lawsuit against the ACC. We've known this for a while, that Florida State wants out, but the contract that all these schools had, pretty ironclad. The penalties make it not worth your while to leave the conference, but Florida State is trying the court system. Well, today, joining that lawsuit, Mike Danger, Clemson. Clemson calls the withdrawal penalty unconscionable and unenforceable, and now Clemson wants to join Florida State and leaving the ACC. Clemson suing the ACC.
I'm suing the ACC. I'm suing Florida State. I'm suing everybody. I just want what's mine. I want my punitive damages.
What punitive damages? This is the easiest path if you're Clemson football to get to the...
I've been in the ACC, and my shoes are I have holes in my shoes from being in the ACC, and I fell down the stairs and my shoes fell off because the ACC prevented me from going down the stairs. And now it is me, Clemson, and Florida State, and we are banning against the ACC. We want what's due. We want our punitive damages. I'm going to sue everybody. I'm suing Jim Boeheim. I'm going to sue John Wildhack. Joe Girard. I'm suing Joe Girard.
Well, you can't sue your own players.
I'm suing him.
I don't think Jim
What school unionized? We're going to unionize, and we're going to...
Well, that's Dartmouth.
Dartmouth. I'm going to sue. Suing Dartmouth. I'm suing everybody. Punitive damages. I fell down the stairs, and people were pointing and laughing at me because my school is going to get bounced at the first round of the NCAA tournament, and it's all because of the ACC. I want what's right, damn it.
The lawsuit states the exit fee would be $572 million a school now.
Yes. Oh, yes. $572 million. I'm going to sue Bill Belichick. I'm suing everybody.
You can't sue Bill Belichick.
Yes.
You can't.
Who's this? What?
Well, does this lead to the breakup of the ACC? If you have Florida State and Clemson, the two football money makers, I'm just bringing this up. We brought it up to Donna DeToda, and Donna flicked away the question like a bug. Hey,
I'm suing Donna DeToda. I'm suing her too.
Could you see
Brent X, Donna DeToda, Mike Waters, Matt Perino, all of Syracuse Post Standard, everybody.
No, do not
suing them. Punitive damages.
Could you see a future, Sal, or Mike Danger, or whoever I'm talking to, where you have You have the Orange playing in some watered-down ACC, but if these schools can just
I want Syracuse and the ACC all by themselves with Boston College.
Can Syracuse go back to the Big East?
Just Syracuse, Boston College. That's the ACC. No more Clemson, no more Florida State, no more Pitt. I'm suing Pitt. I'm suing Jamie Dixon. I'm suing Mike Tomlin. I'm suing everybody.
What does Mike Tomlin have to do with it?
He's in the NFL. He's in Pittsburgh. And I'm suing him for trading for Justin Fields. I'm suing.
Look, everybody wants Syracuse out of the ACC. Fans, I would think that universally, I know that there are probably some fans that are like, no, the ACC has been great for the school. I don't buy that. I don't believe that. I think if you have eyes, you know that Syracuse is going to continue to just be a middling ACC team.
How has the football program benefited off of being one in every 10 years you'll get a 10-win team?
Now,
Whoop-de-doo.
Donna did say something to us yesterday, and I believe this makes a lot of sense, that follow the football and then everything else kind of falls into play. So if Syracuse's football program is good enough to be considered one of these 60 to 64 schools that get put into this mega conference, now you're talking. Now you've got football, basketball, whatever, everything thrown into one gigantic mega conference, which if that's where it goes, well, then you got to feel pretty good about where Syracuse is at with their football program going into this year, because there's a lot of enthusiasm, and you look at the schedule and you're like, they've got some wins on that schedule.
I don't get the sense that that's where it's headed, though. I get the sense that the SEC wants theirs and the Big Ten has theirs. And why would you deal with all these other little satellites like a Syracuse, like a Washington State and Oregon State, the programs that are getting left behind? And half of the Big 12, too. I would think they'd cherry-pick that apart.
I'm going to sue Jeff Capel.
John Wildhack will be joining us
John
tomorrow.
Wildhack, I'm suing him, too.
Saul, you cannot come on the show while we have a Power 5 AD on the show tomorrow.
Who's he?
John Wildhack.
He who?
Syracuse Athletics.
I fell down the stairs, Gene. I hurt my ass pipe, damn it. This is embarrassing for Clemson and embarrassing for me. And we're going to lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And I'm suing PJ Glasser, too. Oh.
Peter pointing out Jamie Dixon no longer coaches.
I'm mad.
That's Jeff Capel.
I'm mad at Jeff Capel. I'm suing him, too, Peter. And I'm suing you. I don't care if you listen to the Sports Bar. I'm mad. I'm vicious.
Brian writing in, possible promotion for Seth. Is Granado out? No, it is like there was some meeting that we had to move.
Is Granado out? They're not going to move on from Granado. He hasn't even coached a day under his new extension. They just extended him. He's not going anywhere.
No.
Come on.
No.
It's just not the way they're going to do things.
If anything, it's a time difference here. And, you got to kind of bend to where the Sabres are at. That's 3 hours behind us.
Mm-hmm. Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard, the Shout Podcast. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills next. Your phone calls always welcome. 866-4326-585, 866-4FAN.
update.
Another visit for the Buffalo Bills today. His name's Mike Edwards. Played safety for the Chiefs last year. Has 2 Super Bowl rings, one in Kansas City and one in Tampa Bay. We'll talk to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, coming up next here in the Sports Bar. Bills and Sabres have a new COO. He's Pete Guelli. Guelli, a Rochesterian. He's an Aquinas grad. He was previously the COO of the New York Football Giants. First 4 in the NCAA tournament begins tonight. Virginia taking on Colorado. Cavs head coach Tony Bennett happy for the chance.
It was a powerful moment when our name came up. It was real emotional, and it was exciting to celebrate with them because, a lot of the, brackets, I don't look into that, but one of our SID said, or actually it was someone else said, well, you're not on many of those brackets. So I don't know what your chances are, but I'm just thankful to be here.
Sabres in Vancouver, 10 o'clock tonight. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I love Buffalo. You know what I'm saying? They've treated me like family here, and I've loved the guys I've played with. I've loved the guys that they've brought here. So, and we've been right in it every single year, So just want to continue get past that point, you know what I'm saying, and get to that Super Bowl.
Words from the highest paid nickel corner in the NFL, Buffalo Bills corner Taron Johnson, who got extended yesterday. Let's talk some Buffalo Bills with our guy, Matt Perino, the Syracuse Post-Standard, and, of course, the Shout podcast. The Taron Johnson signing feels like a no-brainer. Are we good with the money and the term here, Perino, knowing that Johnson is a very critical part to that Bills defense?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, this was one of the slam dunk moves of the offseason that does 2 things. Number one, it ensures that you have one of your best players on defense under contract for the next 3 seasons and helps you a little bit with the salary cap this year. I think it creates somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million in cap space. And if you think about this, too, it's like you look down the road a couple of years and how the league is trending and what teams are trying to add to their offenses and the weapons they're trying to surround young cornerbacks with. The price for an elite nickel corner is probably only going to go up over the next couple of years. So I think, if you look back when Taron signed his first contract to where he was when he signed this next one, he was probably underpaid playing last season, which he ended up being a second-team All-Pro. So I think you get ahead of the curve on this one. It's a guy that's really just entering his prime. He's been super durable over the last couple of years. I love the move.
Yeah, the Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard Shout podcast, our guest here. The Bills seemingly are shopping for safeties here, Matt. We had Julian Blackman in for a visit yesterday, and now there's multiple reports that Mike Edwards visiting, formerly of the Chiefs. Any thoughts on either of these 2 guys and, the competition that's going to be at both safety positions?
Yeah, I really like the potential Blackman move. I'm a little bit lower on Edwards, depending on what the money is. He spent a couple years in Tampa Bay, and then he played 1 year with the Chiefs last year. Obviously, won a Super Bowl, but some of the advanced metrics, I don't know if he's necessarily the perfect fit, especially what they're going to ask this person to do, whether it's Blackman or Edwards. I think that's the Micah Hyde replacement. And I think Blackman, he fits in a little bit better in that role. He played it this past season. He played a lot more in the box for the Colts. He was a little bit more productive turning the ball over, which he can do that. But I think what the Bills might see in him and his best fit is playing that deep part of the field. And I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm sure that there's a market. I think he's one of the top safeties left on the market. Obviously, Justin Simmons is still out there, the safety from Denver. I think he might be able to command a little bit more than what a lot of safeties have already gotten, or who knows, maybe the market isn't as robust for a 30-year-old safety. We just played that game last year with Jordan Poyer. I think everybody thought he was going to get paid, and he ended up getting what, honestly, in hindsight, looks like a really good deal. I mean, he signed a 2-year, $14 million contract, and it was basically a 1-year, $7 million deal. And look at some of the safety numbers that have gone. I thought Cam Curl was going to get a lot of money on the open market. He ended up with $4 million, just a shade over $5 million for Jeremy Chin. So I think that the Bills are in a really good situation. Is that even if it ends up being Edwards, I don't think that takes them out of what I think they should do no matter who they sign, and that's draft a safety. I think you can get one pretty much anywhere you want to pick in the first 4 or 5 rounds that has the potential to have an impact this upcoming season. You know, Cameron Kitchens out of Miami, I think the Bills are super excited about the fact that he tested really poorly. I mean, I think that's going to really hurt his draft stock. And if you rewind to the combine, when we were talking to Brandon Beane about the safety position and scouting it, one of the things he talked about was it's not necessarily a perfect marriage between the testing and what you ask a safety to do. It's more about the instincts, right? Well, Kitchens on tape is super instinctual. He talks about that. Him playing that strong safety, that deep part of the field, is a strength of his game. And he has familiarity with the new Buffalo Bills cornerbacks coach, which probably going to have a word in some of these meetings.
Matt, let's talk a little bit about the importance of intellect for what they're looking for here in safety as well, because we know how important Poyer and Hyde were for all these years with Sean McDermott calling this defense, and we know how important it is for them to understand this defense. Rapp is basically here because he has a year's worth of experience in this defense. So when they're talking about taking in visits with these guys, and everything we see on the field is one thing, and the athleticism is one thing, but really how much of this is really a face-to-face interview with Sean McDermott, and Sean McDermott coming to grips with the idea that somebody other than Poyer and Hyde is going to have to understand and speak his language because of how important that role is in his defense.
Oh, for sure. And I think he looks at those positions as guys that have been, player-driven leadership in his locker room the last couple of years. So I think intelligence and the ability to comprehend and execute the scheme, I'm sure that's kind of baked into all of these conversations that are happening at One Bills Drive with these safeties coming in. And I wonder if maybe that's why the Bills didn't necessarily hit on that first wave, because when you're handing out contracts, I feel like there's so many bidders at the beginning of free agency. Some of those top guys that end up signing, you really can't get them into your building. And so I think this is the strength of having Sean McDermott. It's why I've always kind of advocated for not spending premium assets like a day one or even an early day two pick at safety, because he's found guys and turned them into all pros, guys that other teams didn't want. I mean, Micah Hyde did all these different things for Green Bay. And I remember working with a guy at the UFC before I ever even started covering the Bills. And in 2017, when the Bills were going to sign Micah Hyde, it started making waves. He turned to me because we had cubicles next to each other at the UFC, and he was fuming mad. And I was like, I didn't get it. I'm like, dude, this is like a journeyman type of guy. This is a guy that hasn't, he hasn't stuck in one spot. He's like, trust me, like he is so important to their locker room. He does so many things really, really well. He flies under the radar. I guarantee you he's going to be great for the Bills. And lo and behold, I've texted him multiple times in the last couple of years. I'm like, man, you were right on the money with Hyde. So you got to find that kind of person and that potential to add in at that spot. And I think Sean McDermott really knows what he's looking for. And maybe that's why these conversations are even more important.
Matt Perino, Shout Podcast, as well as the Syracuse Post-Standard. Matt, a friend of our show, I'm Jeremy White. He has this thing with a fantasy flow chart. And basically, hey, if this player signs with your favorite team, you love it. Great value. And if the player signs or some other team, that's way too much money. We didn't want him anyways. And I'm bringing this up in the context of Curtis Samuel because on the surface, this looks like a great deal, right? 3 years, $24 million. In particular, when you compare it to what Jerry Jeudy just got from Cleveland. Are you kidding me? $41 million guaranteed for Jerry Jeudy. I think that says more about the Browns. But my question is about Samuel. How does he fit here, Matt? Can he be the number 2 guy replacing a Gabe Davis, or do you see him more as a situational, go deep, end around sort of player for Buffalo?
I think he's kind of like a 2-3 flex, and he can be whatever you need him to be in your offense. And that's kind of the value of a guy like this. And you mentioned the value. I think this is beyond value for the Bills. I mean, this is a guy that signed 3 years ago with Washington, 3 years, $34 million. He's taken a pretty big pay cut in, cap is exploding. You're seeing, numbers hand. I mean, a guy like Gabe Davis getting 13 or about 13 a season. I think this is a huge value. And then you look at the first-year salary cap hit for Curtis Samuel coming in at under $4 million to have it fit in this year like a glove. I think Brandon Beane did a really good job, and there's so many things that go into this. This is a guy that the front office has a history with. Beane was a part of the front office that drafted him, so you have that part of it. Then you have the piece in terms of fit. What were the Bills trying to do with Joe Brady ad nauseum last year? Develop those wide receiver screens, something that he really, going back to his time in New Orleans under Sean Payton, that's been a big part of his offense. He didn't have the guy to run that last year. He was trying to force it with Stephon Diggs, and it never really fit. And I feel like Curtis Samuel was probably that first priority for Brady, somebody that he coached in Carolina, has already had the best season of his career under Brady, and getting him back into the offense. Like, they never had like an elite level quarterback like Josh Allen. That was the downside of Cam Newton. I believe that last year was maybe Sam Darnold. Let's go back and look. And then the other weapons around him in Carolina, I feel like it left a lot to be desired. DJ Moore was a really good player, but he was just starting out. I think Stephon Diggs, this takes a little bit of the pressure off him and allows him to go back to doing what he does really well. But I think the biggest question that I've been asked since this Curtis Samuel addition has been, what does this do for the Bills' draft strategy at receiver? And my answer has been consistent. Absolutely nothing. I still think that you have to prioritize receiver in this draft. I don't know necessarily if I'm taking two in this draft. Now that you have Samuel under contract for 3 years, you still have 2 years left of Shakir. You have the second year of a 4-year deal for Shorter on the rookie contract. We don't know what he is yet. But you have to you got to keep trying to find the eventual replacement for Stephon Diggs. So if you're drafting a wide receiver in this class, maybe you're drafting him to be wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 this year, but you're doing it in the hopes that he can transition into wide receiver 1 whenever that eventually takes place. And who knows, maybe next year you're able to position yourself a little bit better for a wide receiver, and that guy becomes wide receiver 1, and the guy you drafted this year ends up being 2 or 3 or however it shakes out. But you've got to keep kind of coming back and taking chops of the tree until you knock it down, because they need to. Stephon Diggs is not getting any younger. I think the last 8 or 9 games last year, I don't think that's an indication of what he's necessarily going to be in 2024, but there's a slight concern there. So I think you got to continue to add weapons to kind of insulate yourself from the possibility that he does take a drop off.
Matt, from the last time we spoke, a lot of outgoing Buffalo Bills free agents have been signed by other teams. We notably saw Dane Jackson get a hefty payday by Carolina. Good for Dane Jackson. But I'm curious more about the Bills and this voodoo that is the compensatory draft pick formula for 2025. And I know there's still a long ways to go, but if I'm not mistaken, all of the free agent signings from last week, or a lot of the free agent signings from last week, put the Bills in a pretty good spot for 2025. Am I right in that assumption?
Oh, yeah. Gabe Davis, Leonard Floyd, even Tyrell Dotson, when you think of the Nick Morrow coming in at under the comp formula, so he won't count against it because I think his salary was under $1.7 million. Puna Ford, but Dotson signed for $4.2 million, I think. And I don't know if that's the max value or what the base and how that math does, but they're in a really good spot. The two guys that are going to really count are Mac Hollins, who comes in at 2.5, which, if you think about that probably tells you what they think of that guy, adding him to the mix, that they would have it affect the comp formula like that. And then obviously Curtis Samuel. But everything else that they've done has been either deals that are coming in under those numbers. Ty Johnson, I can't imagine he's going to be over 1.7. And then you've seen guys go on and sign deals elsewhere.
Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard. Matt, I was out last night, and again, I feel like I just have to address this because there's nothing to it, but you're the expert here. You cover this team, and there's nothing to Stephon Diggs. I don't understand why Florio is putting out there something like, hey, look at this tweet and look at the profile picture, and is he saying goodbye to Buffalo? Matt, there's nothing more to this than just unfounded speculation looking for clicks, correct?
Honestly, it's malpractice at this point, some of this stuff. Like, somebody, one of our insiders in the Shout Insider text line, Ryan and I do this thing. We have 300 insiders that can text us at any time. And I've gotten a lot this week on Diggs, and I'm just kind of like banging my head into a wall because it's like, how many times do I have to say the same thing over and over again? But I get it because you see these headlines from people that are, right or wrong, you feel like are in a place of knowledge, and you continue to have this get brought up. It's like, okay, is this actually a possibility? I mean, am I going to sit here and say there's no chance that Stephon Diggs gets traded? Of course not. Like, it's the NFL. Anything can happen at any given time. But I wouldn't take anything that's happened this offseason, anything that he said on social media, anything that he said in interviews at the Super Bowl or anything else as an example of why he wants out. If anything, he has 27 million reasons why he wants to show up in St. John Fisher, fingers crossed, in a couple of months and run it back with the Bills one more time. I think he's in a really good spot in that way. But some of these things, like you mentioned, Florio, I don't know if it was Florio that I saw, but I did see somebody take a lot of liberty with some of the social media posts and the ways they put the headline on it. It didn't even make sense. It's like, what are we doing in 2024 sometimes? Like, you can't take the steps that writer, I use that air quotes when I say writer, took from these obscure, cryptic tweets to Stephon Diggs is saying that he wants out of Buffalo. That was literally written in that story that I saw. And so I guess I feel bad for the consumer when you're fed this unfounded nonsense. It's really important. And I say this to insiders, followers that I talk to in DMs all the time. It's like, you really got to vet your sources and be your own critical thinker on some of this stuff and mute as much of it as you can.
One player that we know won't be with Buffalo next year, or at least we assume he won't be with Buffalo next year. I suppose anything is possible. As you said, it's the NFL, but he's taken a couple of visits on the West Coast, and the journey for a new NFL team for Trey White has begun. Raiders, Rams, Gino and I are speculating that at some point you would imagine he would reunite with Leslie Frazier, at least for a visit in Seattle. We all want what's best for Trey White. We want to see him back on the field. We want to see him healthy, but it still feels to me like 2024 at best will be a 1-year prove it kind of deal before he can actually test his market if he stays healthy for 2025. Are we right in that assumption?
I think that it's trending in that direction, especially now that we're getting to this point in free agency where I feel like a lot of holes have been filled. You're definitely like, how many opportunities are there to come in and be, at this point, probably none to be the guy. And then beyond that, it's like, what kind of money does he want? I mean, he was scheduled to make $16 million this year, and I'm sure he doesn't think that he's still under 30. I think that he is hoping to probably play at much more than what I think even some people are predicting. So I think it's kind of a funny game with Trey White right now. Like, I would expect this to maybe go on for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, and until he finds something that really splashes for him. And who knows? Like, guys have in the past taken it all the way to like camp and preseason, and just to kind of see what happens with teams if there's maybe an injury during August or something like that, and maybe a team is willing to pay more. The Trey White thing is very interesting. I'm very interested to see how that ends up.
Well, in the never say never category, I mean, who has the greater chance? The Sabres making the postseason, or that scenario when Tre'Davious White gets to August and he takes a lesser deal with Buffalo?
Ooh. Mm-hmm. I think the Sabres can make the playoffs. I mean, that game last night, it's wild. Like, you just I don't watch a lot of Sabres hockey, but I was out with a few folks, and that was on the TV, and man, they scored pretty quick, like bang, bang. And they have that in there. I mean, they were this amazing offensive team last year. I don't know really what happened. So I don't know. I think Trey White, when you make a decision like that, and the emotions are probably where they're at for him, I don't know. I just don't see him wanting to come back in a lesser role and in a lesser dollar value, because listen, anybody who's listened over the last couple of weeks have been screaming it from the rooftops. Like, Christian Benford is that guy at this point. Like, I went back and watched a couple of games, over the past couple of months and some downtimes, and there were like 3 or 4 games from Benford where I was like, that's some of the best cornerback play that I've seen for the Bills since I got here. And I'm talking about Trey White's all-pro season. And it's a very small sample size. I know he struggled to stay healthy, But you know another guy that struggled to stay healthy early in his career? Karen Johnson. Remember all those recurring shoulder injuries? He's on the injury report every single week. He missed a lot of time. You know, sometimes that happens for guys adjusting to NFL life until you get your body right. I think this is a massive upcoming year for Benford, and you obviously have Rasul Douglas coming back. I don't know if there's a role for Trey White.
Matt, what can Bills fans expect here next on the calendar here? We know that the draft is still over a month away. Is it as simple as them kind of rounding out their free agent class here by signing a safety within the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think safety is probably next up. I wouldn't be surprised if you see like a defensive tackle also get signed. The pickings are slim, guys. I mean, they have the defensive tackle market has gone dry over the last couple of days, and you know, so much so that I actually have to bring it up here. Daquan Jones is out there right now, a guy that he played with in Tennessee a couple of years ago. One of the Bills content pages shared a list of some of the remaining names, and there's not much. You know, Jonathan Hankins, Taven Bryant, Tier Tart, and then Austin Johnson, somebody that Daquan Jones played with a couple of years ago for 4 seasons, actually, and said he's a great player. A bit more of a run stuffer, one tech. I could see that potentially being in play for like a 4th, 5th type of defensive tackle, but no matter what happens over the next couple of days, I anticipate defensive tackle being a position that you see 2, maybe even 3 players drafted here in the next month, just because of the need, how slim things are numbers wise at that position. And you know, who knows? I mean, that's what the Chiefs have done multiple times in their run. They've gone twice at defensive tackle, and they found a couple of important key pieces to play alongside Chris Jones. I think the Bills have to do that coming up in the draft.
Matt, because we get all jumpy when it comes to camp, you mentioned earlier when you said Fisher, and hopefully, we're not reading into that, right, or anything. Like, we've had the announcement, in early March in years past here. Are we hearing anything officially yet, or no?
We will talk. We're not hearing anything officially. We will talk to Brandon in 5 days now at the owners' meetings, so stay tuned for that. And then, honestly, Pete Gwelly, the new COO for the Buffalo Bills, Rochester native, went to Brockport. When I saw that, I was like, okay, now I think we're cooking a little bit. I think he has an understanding of what it means. We'll get a chance actually to talk to him tomorrow, what that means to have it in Fisher. And I read it in the Bills release that he was part of the team that initiated that at the beginning, putting that all together. That's huge.
Matt, what are you working on at the site that we can check out? And what about the Shop podcast this week? What do we have on deck?
Yep, we got a show tomorrow night. We have one from yesterday where we talked all things safety, Curtis Samuel, and more. 15 days from today, we are coming to a brand new live venue. It's called 29's Kitchen Bar. It's inside the Whirly Golf Dome in Clarence, New York. Come on out for the live show. Starts at 6 p.m. Come out a little bit early. Bring the entire golf bag. Get your swings in. I know that the weather's kind of crappy right now, but the weather's going to turn. Everybody could use an excuse to get to the range, get a couple swings in, and then come hang out with us. We'll talk some Bills.
Nice. Matt, love the work you and Ryan, everybody at Syracuse Post-Standard doing, and we'll check out the next Shout podcast. Appreciate it, bud.
Take care, boys.
You got it. Matt Perino covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard, following up on some of those headlines and storylines that are still these loose ends, a couple of loose ends here in free agency for the Buffalo Bills.
That's another concern. If you were somebody that really wants a wide receiver, just look at the depth right now that is not at the defensive tackle position. And what Matt pointed out accurately is like right now in free agency, there's nothing that's going to excite you.
Yeah, well, I also think that what he said was true, and we've said it as well, that just because Curtis Samuel is a Buffalo Bill does not change your strategy in terms of drafting a wide receiver at the end of April.
No, Samuel's never gotten 1,000 yards. No, he had the tail end of Cam Newton in Carolina and had nothing in Washington, so you can kind of make that argument. But I thought what Matt said is perfect. He's receiver 2.5 for this team. If you do get your guy, you have every opportunity to be that guy opposite of Steph Diggs here.
PJ Glasser, the host of BetQL's Send It In, is going to stop by next in the Sports Bar. We'll talk some March Madness. We'll look at some brackets. We'll look at some play-in tournament action that we have happening tonight as well. PJ giving us some winners before we set off Thursday for opening day of the NCAA tournament. And don't forget Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, stopping by the Sports Bar later this evening, right around 5:45. Your calls are welcome at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. From upsets to buzzer beaters, nothing compares to college basketball in March. It's Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. You know, sometimes, though, you're on the wrong end of those buzzer beaters. Sometimes you're on the wrong end of those magical moments. That's why FanDuel is giving everyone a no-sweat bet from now until March 20th. And it doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or if you already have an account. You'll get bonus bets back if your bet doesn't win. You can even use your no-sweat bet on a college basketball parlay. Look, I couldn't say no to this offer. I actually put down a no-sweat bet on one of my favorite teams to make the Final Four. Going with Kentucky. Let's get Kentucky in that Final Four. No sweat if they don't. Get that money back in bonus bets from FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app if you don't already have it by going to FanDuel.com/Mike. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Odyssey has sports for every fan.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Mike Edwards, a safety, in for a visit today in Buffalo. He played last year with the Chiefs. He has Super Bowl rings with Kansas City and Tampa Bay. The Bills and Sabres have a new COO. He's a native Rochesterian, Pete Gawelli, the Aquinas grad, previously the COO of the New York Giants. First Four begins tonight. Wagner featuring UPrep grad Melvin Council. Donald Copeland, their head coach.
Really proud of my guys, what they've had to overcome all year to get to this point, the way we did it, how we did it. Bigger than the 7 players, I would just say the culture. These guys really did a good job of upholding our culture, and that's something we preach and talk about.
We'll break down the brackets next. PJ Glasser joining us in the Sports Bar. Sabres After Dark tonight, 10 o'clock. The puck drop here on The Fan at Vancouver. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
First 4 tonight in Dayton, opening game, Howard and Wagner. In the second game, Virginia, Colorado State. First game tonight, 6:40 Eastern. Second game scheduled for 9:10 Eastern.
On True TV. This is always the time of the year when I have to find out where True TV is.
I think I'm actually going to take Gonzaga, Houston, UConn, and I'm going to go with North Carolina.
North Carolina is the best team.
We're talking about the women's bracket as much as the men's bracket.
Edwards gets it back and threw it down.
So the Bills, looks like they are now focusing their attention on the safety position.
Mike Danger.
I walk around all day in my house and I'll just talk to myself in the 2 Rochester accents, and my family thinks I'm losing my mind.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thanks, Gene. Have a great day.
Gene Battaglia.
It's okay to be a fan of your team, Danger. It's okay to get excited.
I am.
Go Sabres.
Buffalo winning it by a score of 6-2.
And tonight it's in Vancouver.
Let's go Amherst. The Baltimore accent bracket.
Megan Rapinoe.
This is Joe Capo that good.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
You ready for this? This is going to be a lot of fun.
This is it. This is the moment everyone's been waiting for.
You're back in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're with us. Thanks for listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, your smart device. When you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, and don't forget about our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. We are joined now by the host of Send It In and Odyssey Sports betting insider, PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. You can go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. And PJ, there's no shortage of games to talk about. Of course, we want to get into your head a little bit about the tournament and talk about what upsets you like here in Thursday and Friday's matchups. But we've been teasing this all week long. I mean, really, this is the at-large region for the Baltimore accent bracket that we've concocted for you, PJ. And I feel like this might be some of our best work. And the winner of this region is going to be a worthy addition to our Final Four next week.
Guys, I can't wait. Obviously, I usually come on with you on Wednesdays. I got to fill in on one of the shows, so I texted you guys over the weekend because I knew we had to fill out our final region of the Baltimore bracket, so I'm glad we were able to make it work today. I'm ready.
This is very, very important stuff. Yeah, very important stuff. Okay, we're going to start with the 1 seed versus the 8. And I have to explain, the 8 seed here kind of snuck in. The 8 seed got the...
This is controversial.
It's very controversial. The 8 seed is here while, Rick Pitino is complaining that he didn't get the at-large bid. So the 8 seed is a host of our the longest-running local... Explain this, Gino. It's the longest-running local Italian radio show in Rochester. Local in Rochester is redundant, but he is the host. He is ours. He is the one and only Joe Capagreco, the 8 seed, going up against international soccer superstar Cristiano Ronaldo, the 1 seed.
Oh, man, guys, this is tough. I mean, we've talked about this before. I feel like when you can get the first name and the last name together. I mean, there's a reason that he's the 1 seed. But apologies to your friend. I'm going to have to go with Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay. Well, sorry, Joe.
Sunday morning. I don't understand why I'm not advanced.
You may be a Rochester radio legend, but you are not advancing in the at-large region of the Baltimore accent bracket. All right, PJ, our 2 seed versus our 7 seed. Again, this is our at-large bracket, so all bets are off. We're going with maybe the best actor of our generation at the 2 seed, Leonardo DiCaprio, versus former NHL goaltender, the 7 seed, Roberto Luongo.
Man, 2 good ones, 2 really good ones. I'm going to have to go chalk again on this one. I do like Luongo, but Leonardo DiCaprio was just made for the Baltimore accent. Leo moves on.
But yeah, I was going to say, even when you short his name, he's Leonardo, but if you go Leo, like there's different variations.
That's true.
All
That's
right.
another good point. Yeah, we got Leo moving on.
This matchup is a compelling one, the 3-6. We're going with professional golfer Bryson DeChambeau, who is the 3 seed, versus former female tennis star Arantxa Sanchez Vicario.
Oh, man. I don't know if I can repeat that tennis player's name, guys, so I'm just going to go with Bryson DeChambeau. One of the best names to say. I'll go with Bryson.
All right, all chalk so far in the at-large region. Let's see if we can get an upset here in the 4-5 seed. At number 4, this is, again, we cast a wide net here. NASCAR superstar Joey Logano versus the 5 seed, former Olympian speed skater Apollo Anton Ono.
Oh, man. Wow, 5 seed? I mean, he's like the Auburn in this bracket right now. We'll go Apollo Anton Ono. I have a feeling he might be a player down the end in this
All
thing.
right, well, we're not going to waste any time because being the 5 seed and being that we were chalking the first 3 matchups, it's Apollo Anton Ono going up against the 1 seed in Cristiano Ronaldo. What say you, PJ?
Guys, this is a heavyweight kind of matchup we have here in the 1-5, but I'm going to go with Apollo Anton Ono. Moving on.
The 2-3, we've got Leonardo DiCaprio versus Bryson DeChambeau.
So another really good match. Leo is a great poll by you guys. I'm going to be honest, though, of all the athletes that we have currently participating in their sport, I think this guy's last name is my favorite. Give me Bryson DeChambeau.
Wow.
All right. This is our final in the at-large region, and this will determine who our 4th participant is in the Baltimore accent bracket. It comes down to Bryson DeChambeau versus Apollo Anton Ono. Who you got, PJ?
Oh, guys, we need this to be like one of those Pro-Am events on a Wednesday before. I need DeChambeau and Ono playing together. I'm going to go with the 5 seed.
Yes!
Apollo Anton Ono!
You know why? You know why I'm excited? Because I knew Ono was going to come out of this region. As soon as I thought of it, I'm like, Ono is winning this thing.
So we have, to kind of recap, we have a 5 seed, and then from the baseball bracket, we have a 6.
That's right.
Placido Polanco.
Yeah, Placido Polanco came out of the MLB region. In the NFL, just to recap, the 2 seed. Some would argue he should have been the 1 seed. That would be Joe Flacco. In basketball, our guy. I mean, he was. This was a 5 seed in Dante DiVincenzo, and today the at-large region gave us Apollo Anton Ono. Our final 4 is set, PJ, and next week we will crown a champion.
Oh, we will, guys. That's big time stuff right there. Truly, they say that Final Four, is one of the best days of the year. I mean, how could you argue with that? What a Final Four we got.
Okay. All that being said, now, PJ, we've got our brackets filled out, or at least we're scrutinizing and we're still putting the finishing touches on our brackets. Before we get to Thursday and Friday's matchups, we got the play-in round. Whatever your thoughts are on the play-in round, hey, look, there's money to be made. There's action on the court. We got 2 matchups tonight. One of them we won't be able to bet on in New York State. The Howard Wagner is not available to us in New York State, but because that's one of the matchups, I want to get your lean on that one.
Yeah, nothing for me in either of these 16 games, guys. I would say historically those games are good to bet live. You've seen some crazy comebacks in those kind of games. If you're looking at the first four, I'd say the one bet I do like, I was interested in Virginia when the bracket came out just because the way that I'm wired, you guys know I'm a contrarian bettor most of the time. And, nobody wanted Virginia in the tournament. Nobody wants to watch them win a game 51-48, right? So, especially with them being underdogs, I thought for sure people would bet against them. The Mountain West is having a great year. But BetMGM, they've come out with kind of the betting splits, and they say Virginia is one of the most bet underdogs, which has kind of shocked me. So I'm staying away from both of those games tonight. I do like Colorado, however, on the money line tomorrow. Guys, Colorado is a team that I would watch in that South region. I think we could get some chaos in the lower half of that region where Marquette's the 2, Kentucky's the 3. Feels like every year there's always a team in the first 4 that wins a game and then makes it to the second weekend. We've had 2 make it to the Final 4. VCU years ago, UCLA did it 3 or 4 years ago. I think there's a chance that Colorado could make the Sweet 16 Elite 8. They're top 40 offense in KenPom and defense. They're a really good team. They got pro players, and they made it to the Pac-12 conference tournament championship. So they got a good team. They're tough to prep for. I like them tomorrow against Boise, but nothing for me in either of the games tonight.
PJ, one thing I love about this time of year, things change, storylines change so quickly. We had you on 6 days ago last Wednesday, and we're like, hey, what about Syracuse? Yeah, NC State, they got by Louisville. Ooh. And there's NC State winning 5 games in a row. So here's my question, PJ. Does that say more about NC State or more about where the ACC is at these days? And are these ACC teams ripe for the pickings for an upset here in this tournament?
So it's a good question, Gene. I think, a lot of times we group these conferences together, and I think it's fair because the Big Ten has really struggled the last 4 or 5 years. The Mountain West is a constant fade in the tournament year after year. The ACC, not too long ago, had 3 teams in the Elite 8. The Pac-12 did the same thing. It's been a top-heavy conference all year with Duke, Carolina. Clemson had that great non-conference resume. And then, obviously, NC State stole a bid with their 5 wins in 5 days. I think it really just depends on matchups with a bunch of these teams. Certainly with Duke, I think they're a game-by-game kind of team, right? If the bracket opens up for them a certain way, maybe they can go farther than I anticipate. I think North Carolina's region, that 8-9 game with Mississippi State and Michigan State could be very tricky for them. If they get by that, I think they have a nice little draw in that West region. But NC State, I'm so torn on them, guys. We get these teams every once in a while, whether it's Oregon State out of the Pac-12. Do you remember them? They won the Pac-12 tournament, went all the way to the Elite 8. Then we got Georgetown, who came out of nowhere, won the Big East, and then they lose in the first round. And it's like, what are we going to get with NC State? Are they going to be Georgetown, or are they going to be Oregon State? I tend to kind of lean more towards the Oregon State side. This inside-out game that they have with the DJs, DJ Horn and DJ Burns, I think they got something going. I've always liked Kevin Keatts as a head coach. And I like the way that this draw, shapes up for them with Texas Tech. Kentucky's a team that I'm looking to fade. Marquette and Florida both have injuries. So I think NC State could win that game, guys, and I think they could stay hot here in the tournament.
Yeah, PJ, I was going to ask you about the injuries because you mentioned a couple of them, Marquette, Florida, Houston, certainly as a 1 seed with some injuries. How much do you think these injuries will impact their abilities to advance deep into this tournament here? I mean, there's a lot of expectation on Houston, on Marquette.
Guys, the Marquette, the Tyler Kolek injury is a massive one. He's the reigning Big East Player of the Year last year, and he's the best player on their team. We know the mantra, you need guard play to win in March, and especially with the way Marquette is built, they're built with their guards and on the perimeter, and Kolek does so much for them, shooting, playmaking. He's huge. He had a terrible game last year against Michigan State in the round of 32, and that's a big reason why they went home. Florida, losing their big man is a big deal, obviously. He's a 7-footer. He's very good for them, but they're very deep in the front court. Todd Golden and the Gators, they have 2 or 3 other bigs that they rotate in. So I don't think for them it's as big of a loss. Juwan Roberts for Houston, that could be something to monitor as well. Houston, we know they're such a good defensive team. They struggle at times to shoot, and a big part of their offense is the offensive rebounding, and Roberts is a big part of that. So I certainly think the Kolek injury and the Roberts injury are something to definitely monitor. That could play a big factor of who comes out of that South region.
Yeah, we're talking to PJ Glasser. Your host is Send It In, which you can catch daily on the BetQL network, and certainly advise you tune in tomorrow as everybody's kind of fine-tuning here. PJ, what do you think about UConn and their draw? If they're the presumptive number one overall seed, how is it that in the second round they could get a team that was last year in the Final Four in Florida Atlantic, then in the Sweet 16 perhaps get an Auburn team that won the SEC tournament, and then to get to the Final Four again, it would be Iowa State coming out of the Big 12. So your thoughts here on UConn, because we know one seeds, that is a safe way to go for picking a champion. 63% of the time, a one seed will win the whole thing.
So I was on with you guys last year, and I don't know if you remember, but I told you that after Selection Sunday, we got the bracket reveal, I turned over to ESPN and I listened to who all the guys picked for their Final Four, and they all had the same Final Four. So I did the same thing this year. I turned over. Every single analyst picked UConn to win the whole thing. And, how can you not like UConn, right? Purdue, Houston, North Carolina, all these teams didn't win their conference tournament, while UConn just continues to beat everybody up. They're an unbelievable team in the second half. What's interesting about this region, guys, Iowa State, Illinois, and Auburn would be very trendy teams if they were literally in any other region on this bracket, right? But because they're with UConn, nobody is considering them. 3 of the top 5 teams in KenPom are on this region, Iowa State, Auburn, and UConn. 4 of the top 11 offensive and defensive teams are in this region. There are 5, 6 really good teams in this region, to your point, Gene. I think the game is Auburn for UConn. I really do. I think it's that Sweet 16 matchup. That's where Houston lost last year to Miami. Bama lost last year to San Diego State. You see a lot of one seeds go down in that Sweet 16 round. If they don't make it to the Final Four, that's usually the round where they get got. If UConn is going to win the national title, that's the game that's standing in their way, is Auburn. Personally, guys, I'm taking Auburn. I think they win that game. But if you like UConn to win it all, if they get past the Tigers, I think they're going to end up going back-to-back.
It wasn't long ago when we had the first ever 16 seed beating a 1. That was when Virginia lost in the first round, and then they came back the next year and they won the whole damn thing, right? And I wonder how much that plays into our mindset when we undervalue a team like Purdue, or are we undervaluing a team like Purdue, a 1 seed in the Midwest? PJ, how far do you think the Boilermakers can actually go here after their horrible exit last season in the round of 64?
Guys, I have a saying that I perdon't with Purdue, and I'm going to stick with that. I can't trust that team. I can't do it. And on my show today, I talked about all these different metrics that I found on social media, whether it be TikTok or X or whatever it may be. People are putting out these great trends dating back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And when you compile all of them together, there are only 2 teams that really fit the mold of everything that kind of champions have done in the past. And it's actually Purdue, and it's actually Houston. UConn did not fit that mold, guys. Since 1990, 100% of the national champions, the conference has had at least 4 teams in the tournament. Big East only has 3 this year with UConn, Creighton, and Marquette. I thought that was fascinating. But Purdue and Houston were the 2 teams that fit all the criteria. And, I mean, again, on a sheet of paper, if Purdue wasn't on the front of their jersey, if they didn't have this history of losing to 16s and 15s and 14s, I understand why you would like them, but I can't get there, guys. I can't do it with Purdue. I actually have them losing to Gonzaga in the Sweet 16.
PJ Glasser, our host here. PJ, when we had you on last Wednesday, too, I asked you the question, hey, PJ, give me one of these mid-majors that could... James Madison is the answer, Gene. You knew right away. 31-3 this year, just like FAU was 31-3 last year. Now that you see the bracket, James Madison, a 12, facing Wisconsin, a 5. Is that our obligatory 12/5 pick, number one? And if so, how far do you have James Madison going?
So I do have JMU over Wisconsin. I'm not going to bet the game, but I did pick them on my bracket just because it's one of those games where I think they're such a good team. I'm going to be rooting for them, but I could see Wisconsin winning and covering that game. I think James Madison and I think Grand Canyon are the two best mid-majors outside of Drake. Drake's a very good team in the Missouri Valley, but JMU and Grand Canyon, if you haven't watched them play, really excellent teams. I'll tell you guys, the mid-major that people are going to fall in love with this year is Samford. Remember the name Bucky McMillan. There's always a coach that comes out of the tournament, right, of a mid-major that we all fall in love with. It was Tobin Anderson last year. Shaheen Holloway with St. Peter's the year before. Bucky McMillan, they call it Bucky Ball. They play like everybody wants their team to play. They press for all 40 minutes. They score 80 points a game. They rotate guys in. They shoot threes. It's a really exciting brand of ball, and they're really good. And he's the next superstar in the coaching ranks. So I would keep an eye on them. I think people are really going to enjoy them. But to answer your question, Gene, I do have JMU on my bracket. I certainly think they can beat Wisconsin. I think they could potentially beat Duke, too. I don't think they could beat Houston. I think that if they match up with the Cougars, the Sweet 16 is their ceiling. But they certainly could beat Wisconsin. I wouldn't put it past them beating Duke either.
I don't want to go back to the Midwest because you just mentioned Samford, and we know that Kansas doesn't have a lot of depth. They didn't finish the season strong. That's a 13-4. Do you really think that Samford can get over on Kansas? And then right above them, you mentioned Gonzaga going to the Sweet 16. Talk me out of taking McNeese in another 12-5, upsetting Gonzaga, who kind of flying under the radar this year by their standards when they get to the tournament.
Yeah, Danger, I do like Samford plus the 7.5. I like them on the money line, too. Kansas is so beat up, guys. Their two best players, Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson. McCullough's probably going to play. Dickinson, we don't know. Neither guy played in the Big 12 tournament. Just banged up. And even before they were banged up, I just didn't like them at all. They don't have depth. They can't shoot. They've just, their starting five is really good, but, it just hasn't meshed like it should this year. And outside of the home games at the Fog, where we know Kansas is so good, their road resume usually isn't what we're accustomed to seeing with the Bill Self Kansas team. So I think Samford's certainly live in that game. As for Gonzaga, guys, I actually did bet 2 5 seeds to cover the spread in their games against 12 seed. Gonzaga and St. Mary's were both at the 5s. We don't talk about this. Mark Few has made the Sweet 16 8 straight years. I know Gonzaga's had some really good teams, and he hasn't won the big one yet, and we can't, because he hasn't won a title, we think of Mark Few as one of these top-tier coaches, but he hasn't won a championship, so we don't categorize him that way, yet we don't realize that this dude doesn't lose to these underdogs. While all these other coaches, Izzo's lost to Middle Tennessee, Coach K's lost to Mercer and Lehigh, all these coaches have suffered these terrible losses. And Mark Few and Gonzaga, they always get to the second weekend. So McNeese has a really good coach in Will Wade. He was with VCU and LSU. People might remember that. But I like the Zags. They were rolling towards the end of the year. They beat St. Mary's at their place, and then the Gales got revenge. But I like the Zags, fellas. I think they win. I think they cover that spread, too.
Jim Boeheim lost to Richmond. Jim Boeheim lost to Vermont. Yeah, it was, some of these games, PJ, remember. Last one for me, because if we want to have, beyond just kind of the money line, are there any player props, anything above and beyond the bracket, PJ, that you can recommend to add a little more spice here to the coming tournament?
Yeah, I think, you look at some of these secondary markets, guys, I think, Final Four, most valuable player, right? I mean, if you like a team to win the national championship, now certainly you might guess wrong on who the Final Four most valuable player is, but I think there's a chance. I like Houston to win, but I do like the value on R.J. Davis with North Carolina. You shop around, there are some 37, 40 to 1s out there. ACC Player of the Year, one of the best guards in the country. You'd think if North Carolina goes far and wins the title, he's probably going to be a good part of that. So I always like that. And I'd always advise people, too, to look at the markets of teams to make the Sweet 16, right? A lot of the times when we get these round of 32 games, especially when it's 4 seeds against 5 seeds, and you look at the Sweet 16 market, and maybe the team that's favored in the 4-5 game actually is the team that has the worst odds to advance to the Sweet 16. That's the way it was last year with Duke and Tennessee. Duke was favored, yet Tennessee had the better odds to make it to the Sweet 16. Tennessee ends up winning that game. So everybody's so locked in on the first round, Final Four, and they're obviously the national title. But look at these Sweet 16, Elite 8 markets. Look at how they're priced, and then that might give you a good idea of where odds makers, where Vegas kind of sees some of these upsets coming.
All right, PJ, I hear what you're saying, and I'm gonna ignore what you just said because I'm now gonna ask you for your Final Four. And we know that everything is in pencil and everything can be changed up until noon on Thursday. But do you have a sense of who you're going here in your Final Four and who your championship is? Who's cutting it all down when it's said and done?
Yeah, I might be going back and forth on one region, but I think this will end up being my Final Four, guys. I have Auburn, UNC, Houston, and Tennessee. So we got a 4, a 2, and 2 1s. I got Houston against North Carolina in the championship game, and I'll take Houston to win it all. I think the toughest thing for me was outside of UConn, there really isn't anybody that I like to win the title, but I do think UConn is going to lose to Auburn. So after that, it was finding the team that I liked the next best, and we talked about the Roberts injury for Houston, but I think that's the team this year. So I like the Cougars to win it all.
PJ Glasser, for folks that want to check out your show tomorrow, PJ, what do you got lined up?
Yeah, guys, obviously a lot of bracket talk. We're going to go through some of my favorite upsets of the first round. We're going to look at some of the games in the first round. We'll look at some of the futures markets as well. You can check us out 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Listen to us for free on the Odyssey app, twitch.tv/BetQL, or you can go to YouTube.com/Odyssey Sports and check us out there as well. 1 to 1:30 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday.
All right, I'm gonna tell you why you're not gonna go with Houston as your champion, PJ. And this is a disturbing trend that has just crossed my feed, and I wanted to share it with you before we leave. Gene, I know that
I don't approve of this.
You don't approve of this because Gene likes to call me crass from time to time. I'm just pointing out facts here. In every tournament since 2021, a top 2 seed has lost in the first round to a team with a phallic or a euphemistic name. We go back to 21. It was Oral Roberts defeating number 2 Ohio State. In 2022, St. Peter's defeated Kentucky. Last year, Fairleigh Dickinson defeated Purdue. 3 years in a row. 3 years in a row. This year, Houston has Longwood in the round of 64. Will they be the next team to fall victim to this trend, PJ Glasser?
Yeah, there's no chance. Absolutely no chance. I'm good. I think the one that we would look for is maybe Moorhead against Illinois would be the game
my guy.
that I would look at.
That's why we love you, PJ. That's why.
There you go.
Yes, and PJ, appreciate you. Enjoy the tournament. Let's talk soon, bud.
You guys are the best. Apollo Antonio.
It's going to be fantastic. The Final Four in the Baltimore accent bracket next week with PJ Glasser.
Fantastic. We've got Tre'Davious White adding a couple more stops in his world tour. We can get to that. Well, before that, though, I'm watching this. This is the lead story on the ESPN NFL show. Stefon Diggs, could he be? This is nonsense.
Can we, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll kind of talk about this. We brought it up with Perino last hour, and it's such a glaring chasm between national media and what's actually happening locally that we have to talk about. Oh, and there's Schefter, the talking head, just being the company guy, making sure there's no news, but we've got to make something. Let's manufacture something if we can. We'll get to that and more next here in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with
Buffalo Bills sign a free agent defensive end. He was a reserve in Washington last year. His name, Casey Toohill. Mike Edwards in for a visit today. He was a safety with the Chiefs last season, previously played in Tampa Bay. Adam Schefter reporting that Tre'Davious White today is visiting the LA Rams. He has visits lined up with the Titans and the Giants in the coming days. The Bills and Sabres have a new COO, a guy with Rochester roots. He's Pete Gwelly, an Aquinas grad, previously the COO of the New York Football Giants. The Sabres get the win last night in Seattle. Again, another late start tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern at Vancouver. Devin Levi expected to get the start in goal. Our coverage will begin here at 10 on the Fan Rochester. Syracuse basketball losing 2 in the portal today. Justin Taylor and Cordelia Copeland. Gene Battaglia and the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome you back into the Sports Bar. Appreciate you listening, checking us out the stream. Our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. And as always, we sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app or your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. I just heard your note there in the sports update. This is a new COO for the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres.
Correct.
With Rochester ties.
Yes.
Is anybody surprised that this guy got hired today by Terry Pegula, by the Bills and the Sabres? What's his name?
Pete Gwelly.
Because he's Italian!
I have known Pete. How many years is this? It's 2014. 30 years.
You've known him. You got that Aquinas thing going on.
No.
Oh.
No. He bought time on WCMF AM. Sports Radio 990. Right.
Yeah.
That is before you came to town.
I remember that. That was right around the same time that I came to town.
Okay, so this was, and then, like you saw a few ads or whatever, and he and another guy by the name of Al Bashai, I remember this, they bought the 6 to 7 o'clock hour to go head-to-head against Bob Matthews. And Pete Gwelly sold the heck out of it. And like, this guy could actually sell. And he parlayed this somehow.
Wait, rewind a bit. He went directly up against Bob Matthews. What was that like? Hey, okay, let's go to the phones and get Mr. NFL on the phone with us right now. Go ahead.
I would run the board for that show, Danger, and they kept calling him the fat man down the dial. And Bob couldn't leave well enough alone. So this was
Who
going
was the
back
host of the show?
For Pete
For
Gwelly.
990.
Pete Gwelly and Al Bashai.
They hosted the show too?
6 p.m.
Oh, wow.
They bought the time, and then they resold the inventory in the time.
Got it.
The hour. So I don't think anybody's going to bring this up to Pete Gwelly. That's how
we will.
That's how I put in the request. Hey, look, he's a former coworker of mine.
Yeah, when we get the chance to talk to him, that's all we're going to talk about. We don't care about the business. I mean, let's talk about how you went up head-to-head against Bob Matthews. That's what I want to know about.
So he parlays this. Russ Brandon hires him.
That's right.
And this was when, this is the late 90s, it was a little sketchy about the future of the Buffalo Bills. They had to sell suites and everything. Pete Gwelly was also the guy responsible for kind of getting everything together with St. John Fisher the year 2000.
I remember this. This is where I remember the partnership that the Bills kind of, or the realization with the Bills from a marketing standpoint that Rochester matters, that if you were able to do more with this community, you would get more out of this community for the Buffalo Bills. And that was when they were back in Fredonia, right? And so you made the switch.
Fredonia was not a money maker. It was just basically, let's practice football. And maybe there was a merch tent. And then you realize, wait a second, we can do hospitality, we can sell vendors, we can sell food. It like those first years of
camp. You didn't mention the most important thing about bringing camp to St. John Fisher. And I think it's probably been the most important thing from the moment they decided they wanted to have camp at St. John Fisher. It's that little golf course that's right down the street that makes it real convenient for everybody.
Well, that also, the hospitality.
The hospitality.
Russ Brandon has his membership. I don't know. Pete's got to have a membership.
I imagine he's probably okay. Yeah, he could probably.
Like Josh Allen has his membership.
He could probably swing it. Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember the name, and I probably have met him in the past. just in passing, because I remember that was the Greg Williams era, right? When Greg Williams was hired, and that was their first year, I want to say, at St. John Fisher, and it was a big, big emphasis. And Russ Brandon also being a St. John Fisher guy and being a Rochester guy with some roots here, another guy that wanted to kind of like expand the Bills more so into Rochester than other parts of New York State.
Yeah, and so why did he leave? Well, you want to run your own show. Russ Brandon was the president of the Buffalo Bills. Pete Goelli, through a search, he gets the opportunity to head up the business operations for the Charlotte Hornets, who are owned by Michael Jordan. So he goes and works for Jordan for how many years and starts to kind of sell everything down there, goes up then, leaves there eventually. In the last few years, he was with the Giants, the football Giants, kind of connecting back to the NFL. Pete's wife, Patty, I remember her from years ago. They're still together, 2 sons. She's from Rochester, too. So this is like a homecoming for him.
I don't think we have to worry about training camp, do you?
I worry about it all the time because I'm a nervous Nelly.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't worry about it.
So
I mean,
then announce it already.
Well, he's the guy that does announce it because he's partially responsible for making sure the training camp was in Rochester in the first place. I love that. I love seeing the guy come home. And I think also, there was a lot of praise heaped on another guy that's a friend of the show, Rob Minter, who's done a great job here as the CEO, kind of like overseeing things through this transitional period. But you get Goelli to come in, and he's going to be a success because he's Italian.
All right, so next time you go on CMF, what do Pete Goelli and Duffy have in common, other than the fact they both went to Aquinas?
Tell me.
Come on. Duffy, what sport did he participate in?
Oh, the mission bouts.
Both the mission bouts, yeah.
Oh, he's a mission bout guy too, huh?
Yeah.
I love it. This is great. This is fantastic news. Love seeing somebody from Rochester come home, come back with a great degree of success. That's awesome. And when we saw that cross the feed, I know how excited you got. 'Cause you're like, oh my God, I know this guy. The story about Matthews is the one that if we get the chance to talk to him, that's all I want to know.
For the record, Pete was not the guy calling him the fat man down the dial. He had his co-host that was just going on, and Pete was above it all. And you could see back then,
politician.
Yeah, and Pete was smart enough. Like, you know what? I can do more than this radio job. Let me go spread my wings.
I don't know what to make of this national kind of storyline that's emerging. And I know it's the off season, and I know that free agency is kind of hit a lull. But there isn't anything to this Steph Diggs nonsense that we keep hearing about, right? I mean, this feels like a massive disconnect from national reporters and insiders who have to fill time versus what's actually happening in reality here on the local level.
Talk about serendipity, because I'm out last night doing the trivia thing, and people are asking me about this, and I'm realizing, because Florio puts it out and goes over the pros and cons, and then the last thing, he's guaranteed the $18.5 million, so he's not going there. Then why even do the story?
Right.
By the way, there is no story. It's only because Steph Diggs tweeted, ready for whatever. Like, we're really going to read into that, ready for whatever. And then Florio says, well, look at his picture. He's waving goodbye. Oh, my gosh, that picture's been up there for over a year. And Matt Perino is absolutely correct when he says that is malpractice. If you wanted to say, hey, is there something here? Then you call people in West New York and say, hey, is there something here?
Right. It's not a story. It's an opinion.
So then I asked Matt that, thinking, okay, I'm not crazy. Matt thinks this. 4:30 today, looking up at the monitor, that's the lead story on the ESPN NFL show where Adam Schefter has to come out here and talk about Steph Diggs. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Yeah, in this regard, I actually feel bad because I don't think Steph Diggs has done anything wrong. And it's this kind of attention that gets him labeled as a diva or gets him labeled as difficult. And I don't see it. I haven't seen it. For anything, even last season where you could say, oh, that was a problem, the way he handled, he came out right away, first day of training camp. Well, it wasn't the first day, but when he did speak, he spoke on everything. And he didn't say anything that was wrong, and he didn't act in a way that was detrimental to the team. I didn't have a problem with any, and I haven't had a problem with anything that Steph has done since being with the Buffalo Bills. And I think there's a lot of people that want to believe that history will repeat itself, that it will happen again. What happened in Minnesota, where he just kind of pouted his way out of Minnesota, will happen again. I don't think that's going to happen here. Honestly, because the Bills are a functional organization, and the Vikings, at the time that they got rid of Steph Diggs, were not. You had a head coach in Mike Zimmer who was a disaster of a head coach, had no way of knowing how to manage a talent like Steph Diggs. I think here you have that. And even though Sean McDermott fumbled during OTAs last year.
Pretty big fumble.
Big fumble. But again, I don't put any of that on Diggs. That's a McDermott issue. And McDermott, what I don't like about what McDermott did is he kind of added more fuel to this narrative that exists that Steph Diggs isn't happy. Steph Diggs is a problem. I'm concerned.
It was the I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. That is, I think that's the one and only time I saw McDermott really screw up, meaning he let emotions get the better of him. If you are hot, meaning you're upset about something, then you don't go in front of a microphone. You know the questions are coming and saying that you're concerned, and you lead everybody in the wrong direction, and it just feeds this narrative. Now, that all being said, Steph, get off Twitter, please. Yeah. I think he does this for amusement. Honestly, I think at this point, he puts something out there. All these idiots are reacting to this.
Yeah.
It's amusing to him.
Yeah, you might not be wrong. And if I had that kind of fame, I might do the same thing if I was bored. I don't know. But I'm like you. I'd love it if he would just log off. But that's not the world we live in now. And if he's going to put out something cryptic, fine. But it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. I don't believe that Steph Diggs tweeting what he tweeted and Florio or anybody, Adam Schefter or anybody talking about it means that it's a story. It's not. It's not a story. In my opinion, it's not a story.
No, and then you get all these dumb aggregators. I'm not going to mention any sites, not where they're like, who could he go to? Let's examine the Cowboys, the Giants. Okay, like as Perino said, never say never, but really the Bills are going to take a whatever it is, cap hit not to have their number one receiver?
Doesn't sound like something that they would do.
No, it doesn't sound like it's smart business to me.
No. We're going to get to happy hour here in a few. Happy hour in the sports bar means more of your calls at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Also during happy hour today, Tuesday, we talked to Amherst head coach Seth Appert. Every Tuesday, right around 4:25. We had to bump that today.
Yeah.
We'll talk to him coming up here a little less than an hour from now as the team prepares for a matchup at home tomorrow night against Hartford. Also during happy hour, the Sabres get a win after dark in Seattle late last night, and the task gets a little bit tougher for the team as they travel north to Vancouver and look to keep their slim playoff hopes alive.
This quick note, Hannah Storm has breast cancer. Received a call. She's been battling this since January. Ductal carcinoma in situ, otherwise known as DCIS.
She's working, too. We just saw her. She was on the NFL programming on ESPN as recently as last week, I want to say.
It's they call that stage 0 because it hasn't actually spread to the breast tissue. But I give her credit, though, for hey, I'm dealing with this, and I know a lot of people are, too.
Well, I hate hearing that news and hope that her and her family are dealing with it as best they can. And that it doesn't get any more serious. Quick recovery for Hannah Storm. She's a legend. Absolute legend.
Right. She's like one of the last ones over there. Well, for many years at CNN when they were really into sports, and then she jumped over to ESPN, but she's got to be old. I'm going to guess 55.
Doesn't matter, Gene. Doesn't matter how old she is.
No. I mean, it's a credit that you've been in the business. That's where I'm going with it.
She's been doing it for a second, and she's still
61.
Still very good at her job. All right, we wish her well. Happy hour on the way next in the sports bar. We got to tell you more about Thursday, too. The start of the tournament means Gino and I take the show on the road. Can't wait for the tap room. Bill Grace, Chili Ave location. We're going to be broadcasting live from 3 until 6. We got the Bill Gray's Tap Room specific expanded menu items as well. The deep fried pickles is what I'm looking forward to. You just put a couple pictures in front of me too. I'll be okay with that.
You'll be fine.
Dan sent us a tweet on Elon's Twitter, that's X, at the Fan Rochester, letting us know that he is going to stop by, one of our regulars. He's bringing his girlfriend. We get to meet the girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What an honor. What a privilege.
Okay.
An absolute honor and privilege.
Well, like, do I say this to him really? Like, at some point, like, when you do tie the knot, either Danger and I have to introduce you at the first time as husband and wife.
Well, I don't know if you want me to do that because my introduction will be, hey, are you sure? Because you're entering a world of continuous negotiations. Marriage is a continuous negotiation.
Damn, we won't do that. We won't do that.
I will. That's coming up Thursday, 3 until 6. The Tap Room at Bill Gray's Chili Ave location for the start of the tournament. We can't wait to see you there. And talking about the tournament, it's me, Mike Danger, for FanDuel Sportsbook. And you could say goodbye to your busted brackets because FanDuel now lets you bet on every game of the tourney. The official partner of 95.7 The Fan, FanDuel Sportsbook. And whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing. It starts tonight, tomorrow, Thursday, with round 1, the round of 64, America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines, even pick who's going to win it all, who's going to cut it all down at the end of the tournament. Just visit FanDuel.com/Mike and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
HD2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Breaking news as the New York Jets have signed free agent wide receiver Mike Williams, formerly of the Chargers. Williams gets 1 year, $15 million. The Bills did sign a free agent defensive end today. There's a reserve in Washington. His name is Casey Toohill. Mike Edwards in for a visit in Buffalo today. He was a safety with the Chiefs last season. Edwards has 2 Super Bowl rings, one with the Chiefs and one with Tampa Bay. Adam Schefter reporting that Tre'Davious White visiting with the Rams today. He has visits lined up with the Titans and the Giants. The Bills and Sabres have a new COO. He's Pete Gawelli. The Aquinas grad was the COO previously of the New York Giants. Sabres after dark tonight, 10 o'clock at Vancouver. Devin Levi expected to get the starting goal. Syracuse losing 2 in the portal today. Justin Taylor and Quadir Copeland. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
First 4 tonight in Dayton. Opening game, Howard and Wagner. In the second game, Virginia, Colorado State. First game tonight, 6:40 Eastern. Second game scheduled for 9:10 Eastern.
On True TV. This is always the time of the year when I have to find out where True TV is.
I think I'm actually going to take Gonzaga, Houston, UConn, and I'm going to go with North Carolina. North Carolina is the best team.
We're talking about the women's bracket as much as the men's bracket.
Edwards gets it back.
So the Bills, looks like they are now focusing their attention on the safety position.
Mike Danger.
I walk around all day in my house and I'll just talk to myself in the 2 Rochester accents, and my family thinks I'm losing my mind.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thanks, Gene. Have a great day.
Gene Battaglia.
It's okay to be a fan of your team, Danger. It's okay to get excited.
I am.
Go Sabres.
Buffalo winning it by a score of 6-2.
And tonight it's in Vancouver.
Let's go Amerks.
The Baltimore accent bracket.
Megan Rapinoe.
This is Joe Capo that good.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the Sports Bar. We appreciate you stopping by at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Our stream, our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. Has anybody checked on the health and well-being of John Collins today from Utah, who absolutely got posterized by Anthony Edwards last night? I was watching the Knicks. They showed the highlight of this mammoth dunk. This is the best dunk of Edwards' career. He even admitted it himself. This was vicious, just vicious, and I loved it. Big win for the Knicks last night as well.
Yeah, people counting them out, Danger. I like this.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, and we're going to have to do it again tonight. Last night, if you stayed up, Sabres after dark, they get the W in Seattle. They're in Vancouver tonight.
How many people turned it off right after?
Oh, I mean, you're 14 seconds in and you're down 1-0. I was watching it in real time on my feed. Time to go to bed. Time to go to bed. What did I say, Gene? I said it feels like a win. 1-0 feels like a win, boys. I'm not giving up. Feels like a win. What'd they do? They rattled off 3. Boom, 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 boom. Good.
All right, so it's up to 7.2% now with the 2 points last night. They're in playoff mode right now, basically. Vancouver tonight, which Seattle and Vancouver, that's an hour in between? It's really not that far than the border. So.
Yeah, there is a pretty big step up in weight class, though. Vancouver's a little bit better than Seattle.
Yeah, so we think it's Levi in goal tonight.
Yeah, sounds like it. We'll talk to Amerks head coach Seth Appert here before 6 o'clock. He'll be joining us right around 5:45 for his weekly visit, and we'll preview tomorrow night's action at Blue Cross Arena as Hartford makes their visit to Rochester coming up tomorrow night. Great conversation earlier with PJ Glasser, the host of BetQL's Send It In. If you missed it, we have our Final Four in the Baltimore accent bracket. I mean, this is important stuff we're doing here. In the at-large region, it was Apollo Anton Ono, the 5 seed, coming out of nowhere and beating Cristiano Ronaldo. No, who did he beat in the final? It was Leonardo DiCaprio. No, it was Bryson DeChambeau. It was DeChambeau.
The 3 seed.
Yeah, the 3 seed goes down to the 5 seed. So our Final Four for next week when we talk to PJ in the Baltimore accent bracket, we have Placido Polanco, Joe Flacco, Dante DiVincenzo, speaking of the Knicks, and Apollo Anton Ono.
I think the AC, Joe Capogreco, Rochester radio legend, was robbed.
I mean, there are people in the selection committee that have no idea how he ended up in that region, but you may have a case. So PJ was great in sharing his insight in the bracket. He's not a Purdue guy. We got that from PJ. He's a Purdue guy. But some winners, hopefully, as the tournament gets underway on Thursday. And then Matt Perino stopped by in the 3 o'clock hour as well to share some insights here, some of the newer headlines here from the Buffalo Bills today, including a signing of a defensive lineman.
Yeah, I had to be honest. I had to look him up. Never heard of him.
That's where we are in free agency, pal.
Casey Toohill, 14 starts in his career. Former 7th rounder, was with the Eagles, and they let him go. Ends up in Washington, and yeah, he's a depth piece. And again, you're going to bring 90 guys to camp. So
a lot of guys that you are going to get signed that you've never heard of.
Right, and I think this would kind of fall into the category. So can Casey Toohill compete for a spot on the team? Sure.
And this almost becomes, in some of these instances, a job interview less than a bidding war, right? Like with some of the bigger name free agents. I mean, we knew that Eric Armstead was somebody that the Bills were talking about or talking to, and they didn't get Eric Armstead. He went to Jacksonville.
But he didn't come in for a visit. And I think you brought up a great point earlier in the show, because today, Mike Edwards in for a visit with the Chiefs. We talked to Matt Perino earlier, and he says, look, between Mike Edwards and Julian Blackman, who was with the Colts last year, Blackman I would definitely take over Edwards. Look, the idea that both these guys are coming in for a visit, and I guess you have more time now in this phase of free agency, or is it, hey, I'm Sean McDermott, and I got to make sure that this is a two-way street.
No question.
We're interviewing you here for
That's
the
right.
job.
That's right. Nothing is a given, and this is an important position that he's trying to fill on his defense, and he's trying to replace two guys that are held in very high regard that performed at a high level for a very long time. So you feel, well, at least I feel okay with Taylor Rapp, and I'm sure Sean McDermott feels okay with Taylor Rapp, given that they offered him, a 3-year deal. So Rapp is one part of that piece, and you've got somebody with at least a year's worth of experience in this defense in Taylor Rapp, but what are you going to get for the second guy? And so I think
it's not Cam Lewis, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is Sean McDermott's ability to communicate with these guys, to get these guys, whoever it is, to buy in on how he wants this defense run, just knowing how important Poyer and Hyde were for the 7 years that they were in that defensive backfield.
You think about, because you are only allowed one player to have the green dot on both sides. It's the quarterback on offense, but the defense doesn't have to be the middle linebacker. And that was actually one of the storylines in camp. Like, wait a second. You have Poyer and Hyde who are kind of lining everybody up, and we didn't know who the middle linebacker is. Well, turns out the story ended up just fine with Terrell Bernard.
Sure.
He's way exceeded expectations, I think. But the idea that you could have put one of the safeties with the green dot last year, well, that's how valuable those safeties are to lining up everybody. You don't see gap misses so often in this Bills zone defense. What was rare is you saw it at one of the worst times, that being the Kelsey touchdown, where that was a complete missed assignment. So whoever comes in has to have a head on their shoulders.
Yeah, and I think that's what these visits are about more than anything. And then it's the offer and the player looking at the offer and saying, I thought I was going to make more in free agency, but here we are. It's the end of March, and I'm still not signed with a team. Where am I going to go that makes the most sense? So it's a two-way street. I think that the player needs to leave an impression on McDermott, and the Bills need to leave an impression on the player that's coming to visit. And the hope is that you're able to kind of catch that lightning in a bottle a second time if you're Sean McDermott. Nobody really saw Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer becoming what they became.
I remember being excited about Hyde because I remember watching him in Green Bay and making plays. I'm like, wow, they let him kind of go. Never heard of Jordan Poyer. I'll be honest. Look up. Oh, we got her in Cleveland. Okay, he's a guy. Well, that was Doug Whaley who brought you.
But when we talked to him, I remember that conversation. That's one of the few conversations early in the infancy of the sports bar, right? When we were at training camp and we had the chance to talk to a lot of these guys, and that was one of the conversations that I just remember being very struck by. I'm like, this guy he's sharp. He's you could tell he's tough. You could tell he's a football guy more than anything. And it really was a a look into the peephole of what Sean McDermott wants out of his football players.
Do you remember, there's another detail about that interview. Do you remember when it took place?
It was in the afternoon.
It was after camp had broken. Thinking about that, how many players are like, oh, thank goodness. And the joke is they call it the Buffalo 500. All the players like racing back to their homes or whatever. Camp is over. Yay.
Yeah.
That said something that he stayed with us when he could have just been hightailing it out just a little bit.
It was the last day of camp,
really? It was the last day of camp, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I just remember being very impressed. And I don't know, Gino, I might not be the best judge of football players, but I think I'm a pretty good judge of character.
No, you're a good judge of football players. It's the teams that I'm kind of worried about. But you were indoctrinated in that Chicago thing, and I can't make it change.
the thing that I was impressed with last year was Taylor Rapp. I was impressed with our conversation. Now, again, on the field there were some blemishes. There were some reckless plays. But there was also some plays that he made. Now, if Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane are willing to offer him a 3-year deal with 1 year of experience in this defense, then they value him enough to at least let him go out there and compete for the job. And I think he's going to be the guy that's back there starting when it comes to week 1.
Unless you go the draft route. Like, I keep thinking there's not enough. And if you're going to draft by need and need alone, that's wide receiver. No. Right now it's a secondary. Mel Kiper did a mock, and he had a corner going to the Buffalo Bills. Everybody losing their mind. Like, wait a second. You don't. Okay, I understand that. Do you really need a corner in round 1? No, you don't. But you do need a safety right now. That is an area where the Buffalo Bills, I don't know if it's round 1 or round 2, but you're going to have to bring in a development guy, Danger. The times that they've drafted safety, DeMar Hamlin late rounds, Cam Lewis is a free agent. They really, because of Poyer and Hyde, you haven't had to use a high draft pick on safety.
Yeah, they did. What was the one that we had that lovely Warren called from Corny? That was Jalen Johnson, right?
Yeah,
out of Miami.
Jaquan Jones.
Jaquan Johnson. Meet me halfway.
Jones.
Was it Jones or Johnson?
Out of Miami.
Out of Miami. I think it was Johnson. Jaquan Johnson. Jaquan Jones? Come on. This is our draft pick. How did we miss this one?
Jaquan Johnson. Meet
me halfway. Yeah, that was the one that lovely Warren. That was a 6th rounder, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that guy was, somebody that, and in a pinch, I think he, there were a couple games that he showed up, made appearances, but that didn't pan out.
Where's Jaquan Johnson? He was on Tampa's practice squad last year.
Okay. The Jets have made a signing.
Yeah. It says a lot about the Jets.
Look at the flow chart.
I think it's way too much money
for
$15 million. Well, is that the problem with the Jets? Let's bring in another wide receiver. GM Aaron Rodgers. Congratulations to the GM. You got your man Mike Williams, 1 year, $15 million.
I don't think GM Aaron Rodgers has anything to do with the New York Jets right now. The last offseason different. This offseason, I think he's detached.
Okay, then the employees who are kind of under his control there, like, let's please Aaron and go get him another weapon. It says something about the Jets. Also, it kind of drives home the point that, wow, the Chargers at 5 are really interesting because they were the first team to pay wide receivers $20 million on average. 2 of them. They had Keenan Allen. They had Mike Williams. And now they're both gone. One was a cut. The other one was traded.
So it's the GM that made that decision, by the way. I think it's a new day. I don't know that's...
It's not Harbaugh. It's the new GM that you could kind of... It's right. So with the Chargers being at 5... Well, they could get one of the top receivers, or they could go in any direction. Minnesota could move up; they could move back. I think this is the right thing for the Chargers to do. By the way,
it'd be surprising to me if they go wide receiver. I just feel like I want to believe that Harbaugh's a smart guy and will build a football team from the inside out. You already have your quarterback.
Who did they hire as their offensive coordinator?
Oh, Roman.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Get ready for 3 yards and
3 yards and a cloud of dust.
Rubber pellets.
Yeah, but I think with Justin Herbert, you're going to uncork Justin Herbert a little bit. I don't know that you go wide receiver in one if you're the Chargers. But Mike Williams is now a former Charger as a free agent. He gets signed here by the New York Jets. The Jets also brought in Tyron Smith, longtime Dallas Cowboys offensive lineman who's I don't know. I mean, that guy, every time I see an image of that guy, he's just beat up. He's held together with like duct tape and paper clips at this point in his career. But you need protection for Aaron Rodgers. That line was atrocious last year, and they're looking to rebuild that as well.
We have Seth Appert coming up at 5:45 today. We had to move him back. Meeting last second. Got called in.
That's fine. We're flexible.
Of course.
Yeah, we leave our doors open here in the sports bar, get a little cool breeze going on. What we don't do today is serve water. We're not serving any tap water. We're not serving everything is from the bottle. Everything is purified.
All right, so for everybody outside of Rochester, we are this is only in the city. Okay, so if you're driving back to Victor or Spencerport, wherever tonight, you're going to be fine.
On the east side of town, we don't have these problems, Jim.
We don't have dead bodies.
We don't
in our
have this problem.
However, on the west side of town, we got to boil our water. Did you hear about this, cuz?
What happened, cuz?
They found a dead body in the reservoir at Highland Park.
No way, a dead body at Highland Park? Get out of here, cuz.
Yeah, they're telling you to boil your water.
I'm not going to boil my water. You can't just use the water out of the tap?
Don't use the water out of the tap. You'll get diphtheria.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Tomorrow when you go to work at Kodak, make sure you bring a bottle of water with you if you're on the west side.
Okay, cuz, I'll do that. Thanks. My kids and my wife think I'm the biggest a-hole because I just walk around the house just doing this bit over and over again.
I have questions about you doing those voices, number one. Number two, how does a body end up in the reservoir? There are big gates and fences and everything else.
Oh, man.
How? How do you get the body over there?
I'm more worried about the fact that I had some water from the water cooler earlier today.
So if Mike Danger's not on the show tomorrow,
Before I knew,
then we know.
Before I knew, I'm not going to get nobody's getting sick. How many people is this really going to affect?
Psychosomatic. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm sick. Oh no, it's because of the bad water.
How many is this going to really? How much are we really going to be affected by a dead body found in the reservoir?
I will give you credit because I was out doing my other job, sales. I come back in, had not heard about the boil water advisory. Like, no, because I'm like pounding water here.
Yeah, same.
Like,
I'm the same thing. I got my water bottle with me. It's my trusty companion. I bring it with me almost everywhere I go. But not today. I mean, I did earlier, and then after the fact, the pizza dude, set off the alarm. Hey, turn off all the faucets. Don't make sure nobody's drinking out of the tap. Don't use the ice. Don't use anything.
Wait a second. Should we bring this up with Seth Appert?
Oh.
Like, where do you get the water for the Zamboni?
Oh.
You can't put that water into...
I'm not sure that Blue Cross Arena is in the area, the boiling water area. I think it might be right on the fringe. They're on the other side of the river? I think they're on the other side of the river. I think they're okay. Which, by the way, that's kind of crazy, too, when you think about it. Like, it's just divided by this neighborhood to this neighborhood, this street to this street. I guess it's all based on the infrastructure and the water pipes and where everything's going. So, yeah, if you're boiling water and listening to the sports bar, we raise a bottle of purified to you. Thursday, we'll be raising something entirely different. A cold one. As the start of the tournament gets underway. We'll be at the Tap Room at Bill Gray's, Chilai Ave location. We can't wait to see you there from 3 until 6. We got all the apps ready to go. We got all the beer specials ready to go. Mm-hmm. We got all the tournament action ready to go.
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
We had PJ on with us earlier, giving us all of his favorite bets for Thursday. How's your bracket feeling, Gino?
I have not picked it yet.
You haven't done anything with it?
No.
No scrutiny, no research, nothing.
Oh, wait a second. I've done research.
Okay.
I'm not under any pressure to submit until
Thursday.
11:55 a.m. on Thursday.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those that are like, well, you got to pick Virginia and Colorado. No, pass on that. The pool I'm in, you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, that's fine. I can't stop thinking about it. I don't know why, but I lock in on something and I just now I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Okay, so then do share. Who do you have going the whole way?
But now this is all in pencil. Right? This is all in pencil.
Oh, yeah.
Until we get to Thursday.
Somebody could sway your opinion.
It's all in pencil. And for what it's worth, PJ swayed my opinion on a couple of things earlier today. And some of the stuff that I've read has swayed my opinion. I hate that I'm going chalk, but I'm like the ESPN guys. I'm going with UConn. I don't see a team that's better than UConn right now.
Wow.
Auburn is a good team.
They're a very good team.
Auburn is a good team. And if those two meet up in the Sweet 16, that's the matchup we all want to see. Right, that'll be a lot of fun. But if they get past Auburn, I don't have them struggling against Illinois
or
Iowa State. Yeah, I think UConn comes out of the East. I know that they have a hard time defending, but man, watching them against Tennessee a couple weeks ago, I just love Kentucky. I think Kentucky is so good. Offensively, they're exciting. They've got such talent. I like them coming out of the South. I'm going to go with another Big East team out of the Midwest. I like Creighton.
Creighton is a
3.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Creighton out of the Midwest. And give me Arizona out of the West.
Arizona's a 2.
Yep. They get over on North Carolina.
You know they're going in the sentimental favorite Long Beach State. The coach who was already fired, still coaching there. So.
I know. Our regulars will be rooting for that guy because of his story, and I'm not going to be the guy. I'm not going to be here saying, "Hey, the 15 is going to beat the 2." I don't think. I'm not going to make that prediction. I'm going with Arizona. There's my final 4.
Okay.
Give me UConn, Kentucky in the final. That would be That would be a final I would love. I should have divorced myself from the emotion. I don't really care who the final is. I just want to win.
You realize, like in the world of NIL, like last year, the Final Four that brought you Florida Atlantic and San Diego State and middling Miami team.
Anything is possible.
Yeah, I mean, like we just would pencil in 1s and 2s.
Yeah,
and
anything is possible. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we're undervaluing Purdue because of how poorly they performed.
Correct.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Correct. And you look at their...
Like Zach Edey is a dude. That's a man amongst boys.
PJ Glasser, he didn't quite predict upset, if I heard him correctly, but he went out of his way to say, look out for Samford. They're a team that presses constantly. They play the style that you would love your team to play. They get Kansas. Mm-hmm. So if somebody takes care of Kansas, then... Purdue could have, in theory, a nice, easy path there where you would be looking at the other side of Tennessee or a Creighton there. So maybe this is the year that Purdue is undervalued.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think North Carolina is interesting as well. But, I have a hard time predicting that a North Carolina team that got beat by Syracuse can make it to the Final Four. I want to hold that against them entirely.
I think the ACC is so overvalued.
Yeah. And Houston is compelling, but I think Houston is also pretty banged up. So, and there's so many great matchups here Thursday, Friday. So we'll be at Bill Gray's to get it all kicked off Thursday afternoon, 3 until 6. We look forward to seeing you there. Seth Appert is going to join us here in about 20 minutes before we get to the coach. Let's get to a round of shots.
Yeah, we'll give you some stats to help you on the brackets. Like math plays a part in this too. So we'll just go over some of the basics here as you're trying to fill out your brackets either tonight, tomorrow, or last thing Thursday morning. The Sabres will set you up for tonight. Yes, again, tonight. And also Bill Belichick with a new love interest. We go to the gossip pages.
Oh, okay.
Which I am not in favor of. I'll explain.
All right, we'll get to that and more next. A round of shots on the way. Your call's coming up at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Sports Update.
Jets this hour signing free agent wide receiver Mike Williams, 1 year, $15 million. The Bills did sign a free agent today, defensive end Casey Toohill, played with the Commanders last season, mainly a reserve. Mike Edwards in for a visit, played safety last year for the Chiefs. Edwards has Super Bowl rings with the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Meanwhile, Adam Schefter reporting that Tre'Davious White visiting with the LA Rams today. White also has visits with the Titans and the Giants lined up. Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres have a new COO. He's Pete Guelli. Guelli is an Aquinas grad, was previously the COO of the New York Giants. Sabres after dark tonight, 10 o'clock at Vancouver. Devin Levi expected to get the starting goal. Syracuse basketball losing 2 in the portal today. Justin Taylor and Cordear Copeland. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
The sports leader, 95.7 FM, and streaming online at thefanrochester.com and the Odyssey app. This is The Fan, Rochester.
Amherst head coach Seth Appert joining us in less than 15 minutes. First, a round of shots in the sports bar.
You know, Danger, when filling out your brackets, use MAP as a guide too. The percentage, a 12 beats a 5. Everybody says take 1. Yeah, it's a safe play. 34% of the time, a 12 will win. So take 1, maybe 2 this year.
Mm-hmm.
That drops to a 1 in 3 chance, however, from a 1 in 3 to a 1 in 5 chance, going down just 1 seed. Times a 13 beats a 4. 21% of the time. A 14 over a 3, it's only happened 22 times, 14%. But in the end, go with the chalk. There have been 38 tournaments since this current seeding began, of which 24 of the champions were 1 seeds, 63% of the chance. There is an 87% chance, by the way, that the tournament's going to be won by a 1, 2, or 3. Of course, UConn was a 4 last year.
Okay.
So not know if this is a new trend or not, but 1, 2, or 3 would be the way to go.
I'm hearing a lot of experts, huge exaggerated air quotes, say that this is a very top-heavy field this year because of the automatic bids for the tournament winners that kind of push some guys aside.
Right.
And that you've got some 12 to 16 seeds that are in this tournament that are just straight-up frauds that don't belong in this tournament.
Okay, so what do you think of NC State? Let's start there. They're in 11.
I think NC State I think they can continue to kind of capitalize on their momentum of winning the ACC tournament. And they've got I've got them advancing beyond Texas Tech. So they make it to the second round.
But then they lose to Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah. That feels about right.
That's kind of how I view NC State. Like, they're a good story. They're playing their best ball, obviously, right now. Do they have enough to beat Texas Tech? Yeah, I think they do. But not Kentucky.
We have a couple playing games tonight. The NCAA would prefer that I say first 4, but regardless, UPrep grad Melvin Council Jr. runs the point for Wagner. They play Howard in the Battle of 16 seeds. True TV has it at 6:40 p.m.
Just tell me how much Impractical Jokers I need to watch in order to know that this game is going to happen.
What is going to be the CBS or what's going to be the show they're going to try to cram down our throats, right? One year I remember it was The Detour. Watch The Detour. I'm like, I'm watching The Detour, whatever it is.
Is there a big season finale? Is Young Sheldon coming to an end, a conclusion? The conclusion of Young Sheldon coming this fall to CBS. I don't know.
Followed up by a pair of 10 seeds. Now, if I'm staying up late tonight, it's for the Sabres, not for the Virginia boring Cavaliers. They go up against Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado State feels like a win.
How many people turned off the Sabre game after Seattle's Jordan Eberle scored just 24 or 14 seconds into the game? Tage Thompson then also scored in the opening minute, followed by Jeff Skinner. Then also under 5 minutes into the game was Alex Tuck. 3-1 Buffalo, the quick lead. Sabres coast to the 6-2 win. The first ever win against the Kraken. Money Puck says the Sabres now have a 7.2% chance to make the postseason tonight in Vancouver, in Edmonton on Thursday.
So it was fun because I was watching it in real time, and I was scrolling as the game started, and the early goal had everybody furious. Everybody on Sabres Twitter, I'm going to bed. This was horrible. Why would I stay up for this? And, of course, everybody does a reverse course when Tage scores just a few seconds later. It was a fun game. It was a drunk game. There were some really kind of like weird goals and weird bounces. Really poor goaltending up front by Seattle. Different story tonight against Vancouver, and here's my concern for the Sabres tonight. I don't like how they played in the third period of that Seattle game. They were sloppy in the third period of Seattle, and they don't have any reason to take their foot off the gas or to play sloppy. They can't afford to play sloppy moving forward. They were kind of that third period was just gross. It wasn't a great third period for either team, and so I'm nervous about them tonight. Feels like a loss.
Yeah, it's Vancouver.
Feels like a loss.
Just 10 days before the San Francisco Giants begin their regular season, they made a free agent splash. I don't know if you caught this. Blake Snell, 2 years, $62 million. But in reality, it's a one-year deal. That's because he has an opt-out after this year. That way, his agent can say, look, we can do this all over again next year, Blake. Snell is the reigning Cy Young Award winner, going 14-9 on a 2.25 ERA for San Diego. He's one of only 7 pitchers to have won the Cy Young in both leagues.
All right, so why? Why wait so long to sign this guy?
Average annual contract. He wanted those dollars, and again, $31 million this year. That's an overpay, but teams like the Yankees were not willing to say, yeah, we're going to give you the 5 years, nor should you, honestly. That seems to me. Do you realize, Danger, by the way, that we have actual baseball coming up here this week over in Korea with the Padres and the Dodgers?
Oh, so they're starting the league overseas, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, it's actually.
Oh, who cares?
No, it's 6:05 tomorrow morning on ESPN. The baseball season.
Oh, set your alarm 6 o'clock in the morning to watch baseball in Korea.
Tyler Glasnow against Yu Darvish. The baseball season opens tomorrow. No Francesa on that.
That is a Francesa.
Also, by the way,
started on our soil. Damn it! The season starts here.
Don't be that guy.
What are we doing? This is for what? For the good of the game? For money? What is this for?
It's
for TV. It's 6 in the morning. Nobody's watching.
What's the difference between this and going over to London?
I don't like that either. To start the season, especially.
This is the only time you really can do it, go over the Pacific Rim to start the season, because now when they come back, it's like the weird part is they're going to go back into spring training, and actually they do play an exhibition game, both of them.
It's ridiculous. Just start the season. Opening day is our thing, right? I think you, being the baseball purist that you are.
Nope, I've come around on this, and here's why. NFL, where is it most popular? It's in America. And NBA, well, basketball, it's most popular in America. Baseball, where it's most popular, is not here. It's over there. And the best players in the world are here. So why not try to build your brand? What the Dodgers are doing is actually very smart here. They're going to become like Asia's team, and that upsets a lot of people. I understand.
Yeah, I don't like it. I'm boycotting.
Oh, who cares?
Not watching. Don't care. Let me know when it's opening day. By the way, 2 weeks to Red Wings opening day. I saw the sign on my way and worked through the snowflakes that were hitting us in the end of March.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of these early games, but hopefully we get some spring weather that'll be nice and quick here in Rochester. Clemson today joining Florida State's lawsuit against the ACC. Clemson wants out of the conference, saying that the withdrawal penalty is unconscionable and unenforceable.
Yes, I'm Clemson, and I would like to sue the ACC with our friends from Florida State. They've been very mean to me over the course of many years. We haven't won any championships. I wanted to go upstairs and get some water, but they told me I had to boil my water. Then I fell down the stairs. My shoes fell off. I broke my glasses, and I fell on my ass pipe. So I'm suing the ACC. I'm suing John Wildhack, Jim Boeheim. I'm suing Bill Belichick. I'm going to sue everybody.
Okay, you can't sue Jim Boeheim. He had nothing to do with
I'm
this.
I'm suing Jim Boeheim. I don't like what he says about the ACC. The ACC.
The ACC.
That's what I said when I fell down the stairs. I said ACC. That's why they call it the ACC. Because when you fall down the stairs and you land on your ass pipe, then you just say ACC.
Don't make me laugh. The ACC maintains their belief that the courts are going to uphold their agreement with these schools.
I have a lawyer on the phone right now, and he's going to help me sue for punitive damages. I want out.
Finally, from the gossip pages, Bill Belichick was spotted at a high-end Boston restaurant last night on a date with what is being termed a mystery brunette.
How do you like being that woman And that's what you've been reduced to. The mystery brunette. Like, I'm sure she's accomplished. She's probably got a great life. She's, a winner in many regards. But in this regard, she's the mystery brunette.
This is the difference between Boston and, say, New York and in L.A. Like, is that news in New York that Aaron Rodgers... Well, I guess that's a bad example, but...
Hey, to me, mystery brunette is better than some broad, I guess, is what it could have been worse.
I thought I would just kind of throw it in, seeing that you and many guys are married to brunettes there, that
Yes.
Bill Belichick there, because Linda Holloway was not. If you missed that whole thing, he split with Linda Holloway back in September.
I don't know who that is, but okay.
Yeah, that was the longtime girlfriend. Danger, I don't need Bill Belichick all happy, running around with a new woman, enjoying life, and not thinking about football. I need him thinking about football. Don't turn into Jimmy Johnson.
Let's see what happens here. This is
on the sidelines.
You're turning this back into the bet. This is about the bet. The bet between the box wine bet. The box wine bet is Bill Belichick will or will not be coaching an NFL team in 2025. I say nay. Gene says he will. And we have a Bota box. What are they called? Bota box?
Bota box.
Box of wine. Hashtag box wine mafia. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this, Gino. I think he's going to get some weak knees. I think he's going to become smitten. He's going to find out that there's more to life than football when he regularly experiences the pleasures of a woman, not just in the off season, but more regularly, more frequently.
I see. It could go the other way where... Listen, you gotta wait a second. You want me to do this here at home or this? Normally, I'm leaving for camp around this time. So right now, it doesn't seem good. It seems like the cards are stacked against me. It's fine. Be in this new lovey-lovey phase, but then when you normally are hitting the opt-out button around camp time,
Where do you think he met Mystery Brunette? Is he swiping left, swiping right on Tinder? What's he doing? You putting out a profile on Tinder?
This is the big mystery, Danger.
Yeah.
We've got to figure this out.
Let's get to Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach. He's going to join us for a couple few next. On the Fan, we'll preview tomorrow night's action at Blue Cross Arena against Hartford. Stand by.
us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Moving in, there's a shot, they score! Neuchel through the slot, weaves his way in, puts it inside the left post, and the Amerks now have a 3-goal lead.
Don Stevens on the call tomorrow night as the Amerks host the Hartford Wolfpack at Blue Cross Arena. Hartford making their trip to the Flower City. We welcome in Rochester Americans head coach Seth Appert back in the Sports Bar. Appreciate the time as always, Coach. Walk us through the home and home that saw us get the win on Irish night at Blue Cross Arena before that quick turnaround and a disappointing outcome on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's a good week last week. We win in Syracuse, hard place to win. You beat Toronto at home. We gave ourselves a great chance to win in Toronto, 3-3 in the third period. Weren't able to finish it. Actually probably played, better defensively on Saturday than we did on Friday, but that's hockey sometimes. Sometimes pucks go in. They had a goal that bounced in off a skate. Those things can happen. But overall, 1-2 hard-fought games, give ourselves a great chance to win the third game. Would have liked to get that to overtime, but 2 out of 3 is pretty good.
Yeah, Seth, we're happy for Devin Levi. He goes back up to Buffalo. We may see him here tonight. So kind of assess your goaltending situation as not 1, not 2, but 3 home games coming up for your team this week.
Yeah, I would assume. I haven't seen anything, obviously, there out west, but I would assume Levi will play tonight, obviously, with the Sabres being in the mix for the playoffs. And, they wanted Levi available for the back-to-back that they had out west, just in case they needed him, which that's part of it. And I respect that, and I totally understand that. We got a lot of faith in Dustin Sikarsky. He's a veteran. He's played a lot of big games in his career. He's won a lot of big games in his career. And then obviously we recalled Michael Hauser, and we all know how good he is and how ready he is to step up and deliver in big moments.
How's the health of the team going into this week, Coach?
Not great. Not great. So Weisbach and Warren are still out, but there's a chance that they could be available over the weekend, not Wednesday, but on the weekend. There's a few other guys pretty, banged up. Stillman's going to be out, relatively long term, unfortunately. So we're not in great health right now, and we certainly have a thinner lineup than you'd like at this point of the season.
Yeah, one player I wanted to ask you about because I came over in one of these trades, and I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong. Your first impressions now he's been around, defenseman Kali Shaline there, Seth.
Shaline, very good. Shaline, yes. He's done a nice job. It's a big adjustment. He was in the Okposo trade from Florida, and Charlotte plays a very different style than us. They play man-on-man defensive zone. We play zone. They pinch and run north with their defensemen. We try to surf and angle with our defensemen. So 5-on-5, it's an adjustment, and he's doing a good job with that adjustment, but it is an adjustment. I think it fits our style, fits him better in that he's more of a thinking man's player. And I think that's in time. We'll see that play out. He's done a real good job in the power play. He's got a goal and assist in 4 games in the power play. So he's done a really nice job up there. And he's a guy that brings some offense and some puck moving ability to our blue line.
You have to go back to before Christmas, the last time the Amerks faced Hartford. That was there in Hartford. The team got the overtime win. What do you remember about that game, and what can we use from that experience against Hartford for tomorrow night here at home at Blue Cross Arena, Seth?
Not a lot, really. That when you play the other division and it's been 3+ months, there's not a lot of takeover, that you learn and bring with. So it's more based on what we're seeing on video of them currently. They've got a little bit of a different roster. We've got a different roster. Right now it's more getting familiar with how they look over the last 4 or 5 games on video. We know their personnel pretty well. They got a really good group of forwards, really strong forward group. You got, Pitlick, who's got hundreds of games in the NHL, Riley Nash, who's got hundreds of games in the NHL, Belzeal's got extensive time in the NHL, with some real good young prospects like Berard and Othman and players like that. So their forward group is very, very strong. Probably like us, they got they're banged up a bit on the back end. They got some guys either out with injury or up in with the Rangers right now. So, it's going to be important that we test their defensive core that isn't maybe quite as deep as it's been for them most of the season.
Yeah, so the Amherst home Friday and then Sunday too, Seth, where that's one of the promotions when it gets announced, like, oh, when is the Bills Day game? You're going to be wearing these Bills-themed sweaters here. And I guess my question, Seth, is, and I kind of liken it to this, whenever you go to kind of a new town, you kind of adopt maybe a little bit like whenever I'm on vacation out in the Cape, like I start following the Red Sox and I'm like, how does this happen? Are you starting to kind of morph into a Bills fan, Seth?
Yes, 100%. First of all, I've always liked them. I grew up a Vikings fan, so it's easy to have an AFC team along with your NFC team. I've always liked the Bills. I've just been drawn to people in Western New York. My time recruiting at RPI, really enjoy the people of Western New York, like the culture that the Bills have, the fan base, etc. So I've always appreciated the franchise, and now working in the organization and getting to be around people that are just rabid Bills fans. Our video coach, Amir Gulati, is just a diehard season ticket holder. And he actually, on his resume, said proud member of Bills Mafia. And that was a big reason I called him, even though he didn't have as much experience as other candidates, because I was like, if this guy's crazy enough to put that as a resume, we need to talk to him.
I love it. Seth, it's great catching up with you. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll do it again next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, joining us here in the Sports Bar, your proud home of Rochester Americans hockey. Listen for the Amherst and Wolfpack tomorrow. Puck drop just after 7 o'clock. Sabres hockey tonight in Vancouver. That's coming up at 10 o'clock tonight. We're back tomorrow with John Wildhack, Syracuse athletic director, joining us at 4:30. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan.
Claymore Country Club in Spencerport is now open for the season.